Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me again, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the Grumpy Old Man. They say there's no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Grumpy, how are you?
Fine. Yourself?
I can't complain. Grumpy. First day, I guess, after the elimination. Now, does it still feel fresh, like a fresh cut wound there for you, Grumpy?
No, I'm already over it. I'm on to my favorite time of the season, off season, when hypothetically you should be making improvements to your team.
Oh, goodness gracious. Starting off early today, huh, Grump?
Yeah.
Guys,
there's no shame in my game because I'm always the same.
Yeah. Here's my point. I don't feel all that bad, as weird as it sounds. I don't feel – obviously it's unfortunate we lost in Game 7 the fashion we did. But I don't feel like it stings. Some people I see out there are saying, it's like a salt in a wound. It's still so fresh there for them. I don't know. I just don't feel like that this year. I feel like our team over exceeded what my expectations were for them entering the playoffs, and I thought they did a more than valiant job.
Yeah, same thing. I agree. Based how we played during the regular season, I did not expect us to go as far as we did. It was a valiant effort. After listening to Barry Trotz's comments last night, probably the last ride for this group, and I'm fine with that. We need to get younger and more explosive. And hopefully they realize that, honestly. Hopefully they've come away to the grumpy old man's way of thinking to make the team a true Stanley Cup contender, the things they need to do.
Is that what it is, huh, Grumpy?
I hope so. That's all I have to say about that.
I'm liking your Josh Bailey, though, shirt, Grumpy.
Well, I figure hopefully I won't need to wear it anymore after today. Hopefully he'll be gone in the expansion draft or traded. That's what I'm hoping. Get rid of him. But like I mentioned last night even, what's the most important thing we need to do in this offseason is free up salary cap space. Number one, most important thing. Nothing else matters. That's the most important thing we have to do. And Josh Bailey had a passable playoffs again this year. His value is never going to be any higher. And he's on a very manageable deal. You move him. Or you move a guy like Jordan Eberle or Nick Leddy. There's a myriad of players you can move, honestly. Need to get younger, need to get rid of salary.
Grumpy dives right into the freaking meat and potatoes of the podcast. Grump, we're gonna get there, my friend. You don't set, my friend. You're just ready. You're slamming. It's like if we were running a race, Grumpy, you are a sprinter, my friend. Hey, no need to rush it. No need to rush it. We still have an ad there to read from DraftKings, Grumpy old man. Before we get too much into things,
hold on. Before you get into an ad, what's the thing you're supposed to do every podcast that you don't do? Right off the top, you're supposed to do it. As soon as the podcast starts, what are you supposed to do?
If you like the content, you want to see more, the best way to make sure you don't miss out on any of the action is by following us there, subscribing on YouTube there, following us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribing wherever you listen to any of your podcasts. Grumpy Old Man and myself will be going live every single week during the offseason, just like last year. We're going to be going live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single Saturday. That's how you get any of the action. It's called the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. Where you're watching this, that's how you can go ahead and subscribe. And again, if you want to have even more content in the off season, hey, maybe you want to shift gears. You don't want to just be hemmed into hockey. We've got another general sports podcast where it's more just hot takes. And Grumpy Old Man and I, we kind of duke it out on that type of podcast. And again, you can find that in the link in the description below. It's TJ and the Grumpy Old Man podcast, but it's more a general sports podcast. But Grump, thanks for reminding me. We do have our ad there to read from DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate and has plenty of instructions there for new bettors and list ways for you to get in on all of the action. My friends and families have DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. DraftKings Sportsbook is putting you aside to turn $1 to $100 of site credit. That's right. Pick any NBA team that's still in contention. Bet $1, and if that team wins, you can get $100 in site credits. Don't forget, DraftKings Sportsbook is also offering great odds on promotions on baseball, the NHL, and much more all week long. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. Bet on the NBA team there of your choice to win their next game. And if they do, you can claim $100 in free credits. Again, that's promo code THPN for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older in New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only, and new customers only have this offer there. Ragers paid there out on site in-site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com there for full details.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Grumpy, it's our ad that we read. DraftKings, our sponsor.
Yeah, I know, but then you go into a whole bunch of these other things. I'm like, I'm not a nuclear physicist. If I put down my money, when do I get it back? That's all I want to know. Because I'm going to win. You know I'm going to win. So it's like, how do I get my money back? I don't want credits. I don't want store credits. I want cash, the green stuff.
That offer was for store credits, Grumpy.
Okay. Can I get that in cash?
No,
I don't know how it works. That's all.
I told you how it works if you listen, but neither here nor there. I'm happy with the season we've had. I really am. And here's the thing. With the limited cast and crew we had out there on the ice, I'm shocked we made it as far as we did. This is a team that I think we're going to see an overhaul on over the summer, and it's needed. I think Barry Trotz has done an excellent job the last 2 years bringing this team that is not on the same playing level field as some of the talent of other teams that we faced off and bringing them there to the semis in back-to-back years. Taking Tampa 6 games last year and to Game 7 this year. You can't be more pleased. I can't be more pleased. He does a few things that irk me, but at overall production, I couldn't be more pleased with what I've seen on the ice.
Okay. So now you're agreeing that we need to overhaul the team somewhat to get younger and less expensive, correct?
Oh, I've always agreed that we need to focus.
I just want to make sure because I'm hearing you now, and the fans are finally hearing it. Here's the thing. I said we should have done that last year. I said we should have done it 2 years ago because we didn't have enough talent. As soon as they first came in, that's what I said, right? Because why? The players on the team were never good enough to win a Stanley Cup. So what do? You move them out and you bring in more talented players. Then we'd be further along with the future of the team. I've always felt that way.
Here's the thing. I don't think you're understanding. This team is not far off. You have continually seen that they are not Stanley Cup contenders. That's just not true and not accurate. This team is not far off there from making the step of, hey, we're getting beat there in the semis into now we're Stanley Cup final contenders. You think they're light years away. They're so close, Grumpy, and we don't see eye to eye on that point.
Okay, you just said we have to overhaul the team. So we were not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. That's been my whole point. We were never good enough to win a Stanley Cup. Now you're agreeing we have to, overhaul the team, which I said we should have done 2 years ago, because all of our guys were older. They're even more old now. And instead of signing them to long-term deals and hamstringing yourself against the salary cap, I would have cut them loose and went the younger route. Because with Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz, they have such cachet for being, a great GM and a great coach that I just think that was the way to go. Now you're 2 years behind what could have been a rebuild.
Okay. Here it is again. We're not having a rebuild. We're having a retooling. If you think we're going to scrap everything we've got out there and completely redo it, Grumpy, we're maybe going to get rid of 2 skaters that are majority or players that play big roles on this team in order to retool and to restructure, Grumpy, and overhaul. That's what we're going to do. We're not overhauling by saying, hey, out of our top 6, we're getting rid of 4 of them, and our bottom 6, we're getting rid of 5 of them. That's not how this is working. For you to think that way, which is what I think you think what the Islanders are going to do, it's not the case. And it's not what the Islanders should do. What they're going to do is they're going to have to move certain pieces off, and they're going to have to integrate some of the younger guys. It's not going to be a complete overhaul, though.
You have three free agents that you have to resign. 3 you have to resign.
Yes.
Beauvillier, Sorokin, Pelech. Figure they're going to cost what a year? What do you figure? Borderline.
You're missing also out on Kyle Palmieri. He's going to be re-signed.
Okay, he's a piece of garbage. He's unrestricted. I'm talking about restricted free agents, young guys, core guys that we need to resign. They're way more important than the Kyle Palmieris and the Casey Zizekises of the world. They're on the tail end. I'm talking about guys who are the future of the team, not the past and not the present, the future. How much those 3 restricted free agents do you figure we're going to have to come up salary cap wise? 12 million?
I would argue that the players are not only the future, they're also the present of this team too. You said not the present, but I think they're also the present though too. I think 12 million is an undersell. I think you're going to have more than that for those 3 restricted free agents, because I think Beauvillier, let me finish my point. I think Beauvillier is going to be getting at least 3.5, if not more. Again, a guy who plays a top 6 role for you is going to make at least 3.5, if not more. I think Sorokin is going to be near the $5 million mark. And here's the scary part about it. If the Islanders take the approach of, hey, we can go ahead and now sign Sorokin to a bridge deal until Varlamov's contract's over, and then that's how they'll supplement it. I could see them doing something like that. They'll pay Sorokin a little less now, and it could bite us in the ass later on. But I think that's maybe the approach they take. And I think that Pelech is a guy that they're going to be paying $4.5, $5 million plus to.
Okay, so how much is that? How much is that?
It's at least 13 million, 13.5.
Okay. Before you can sign any of those guys, you have to clear that much salary cap space, right? It has to happen. Then you have Anders Lee coming back. That's $7 million. So you're going to have to offload $20 million. How many guys does it take?
Stop. The 8.1 million was including Anders Lee on the cap hit. So right now, going into next season, our projected cap there, as of right now, actually now is 5.7 million. Sorry, it was less than that yesterday, but here it is. I think maybe it's because certain players now have hit unrestricted free agency. It's because Kyle Palmieri's contract has hit off the books, as well as Zajak's and Cizikas's. So right now we've got 5.7 million of available cap space. That is including Anders Lee being back as a cap hit for next season.
So with your numbers, we have to clear it an absolute minimum of $8 million. $8
million.
Absolute minimum, just to sign back our restricted free agents. And that's not including the guys we're going to have to add to replace Palmieri or Zajac or Casey, right? So how much money do you realistically expect? How many guys are going to have to move up the team? See, that's my whole point. You say, well, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. We have to clear at least an absolute minimum of 4 guys off of this team if you want to make improvements.
If you want to hear my answer, I'll give it to you. We're going to need to clear $8 million off the books, and then I think we're going to sign back Palmieri. So you're looking probably more towards, ideally, you want to have cleared off in some capacity 12, 13 million off the books, bare minimum. People are again throwing out, we need to throw Andrew Ladd on long-term injury. I don't disagree, right? That opens up about 4.4 million immediately off the books. Then you're looking at, hey, we need to make sure we're able to offload possibly a bad contract there to Seattle, if at all possible, and maybe try to trade one of these pieces here in the offseason. There's some items we do. Realistically, I think we will probably be without Letty and Eberle going forward into next year. And if we could somehow move off Andrew Ladd's contract, that is about as much movement, I think, as you're going to see here this offseason. I really do.
Okay. Or is he going to move a young piece to keep the old pieces of garbage like he did last year, where he could have dumped Nick Letty or Jordan Eberle or any of the older guys, but he chose to get rid of Devon Taves, who gets paid less than Nick Letty or any of those other guys. That was a blunder on his part. As a restricted free agent, he chose that route. Okay. I mean, like I said,
hold on. You asked me a question. I will answer your question for you. You said, "Oh, we're going to continue with the young guys." No, we won't, because we have to free up the cap space. It has to be the older guys. You heard Barry Trotz talk about in the post-game interview, Grumpy Old Man. If you were paying attention, he said this is the last time this team and this core is going to be together. He saw all the players absolutely wrecked about it, because this is going to be one of the last times this team and this core together is the same way it is. So you're going to see some moving and shaking from of the veterans, Grumpy, even though I know you want to push the narrative of, hey, we're only going to move the young guys. We want to go ahead and have a team full of 35-year-old guys. That's not what's going to happen.
Your pal Tommy Baffy said that the guy they were looking to move or potentially trade at the deadline was Anthony Beauvillier. And this was after they moved Devon Taves. So that's the way that they're going. That's what their MO is. It's keep the old guys, get rid of the young guys. And I'm just telling you, that's a recipe for disaster. I've never wavered on that fact. And I don't want Kyle Palmieri back. Why? Because he's 30, going to be 31 years old next year. So you want to give another guy in his 30s big money long term. It doesn't work. Get rid of those guys, fill from within, or pick up somebody younger. Give somebody else a chance. Try to take somebody who's maybe an underachiever on another team, who's on a young manageable deal. Try to bring him in. And you talk about, well, you think Letty's going to be gone and Eberle's going to be gone. Well, once again, most teams, with the exception of maybe 4 or 5 in the whole league, have salary cap issues with the flat cap. It's just tough to move those guys. I mean, that's the quandary that they're in right now. I like I said, any of our unrestricted guys, bye-bye. See you later. We're not re-signing you back. It's not even an option to sign them back, I don't think.
Here's the thing. You can keep saying that Kyle Palmieri's being brought back. I don't care what you say. You want to wish Kyle Palmieri is going back with the Islanders.
Are you privy to something that you know Kyle Palmieri's coming back?
Yes. Yes, I am. Connect the dots, Grumpy Old Man. The guy hold on, bro. Hold on.
Well, hold on. You said that you know something. What do you know? What do you know? You're saying connect dots. Tell me what you know.
You really interrupted me to say, what do you know, when I was going to tell you what I know? Grumpy, come on, man. Come on, buddy. Work with me today.
Tell me. What do you know?
He just recently bought a house on Long Island. He said he wants to come back and sign with the Islanders. You don't just randomly go out and willy-nilly buy houses there in the area if you don't expect to be there long term. He's not buying that as a rental property, Grumpy Old Man. He's buying that for him and his family to live in. He wants to be in Long Island. He bought the house. What do you think that means?
That doesn't mean anything. It just means he bought a house on Long Island. That doesn't mean that he's signing back. What if Lou Lamoriello says, yeah, we'll take you back at $3 million per year? Because he holds all the power now. If he says, I want to come back, I want to play on Long Island again, Lou Lamoriello can lowball him, right? Then what if he says no? What if somebody offers him $7 million a year? You think it's going to matter? You know what he'll do? He'll just put his house on the market and move somewhere else.
Do you think someone's going to offer Kyle? Let's be realistic. You think somebody's offering Kyle Palmieri $7 million a year?
I have no idea. I would hope not.
You don't bullshit like that then.
Maybe we'll offer him $7 million a year. We've done that before. We bet against ourselves to sign Anders Lee back.
then what was your point of arguing that inane point then, Grumpy?
I just don't think there's any guarantee to bring him back. You say he's guaranteed to come back. I don't see that.
I will put, hey, just like I told you, there's no way the Islanders in Game 6 in the Coliseum, there's no way the Islanders don't bring back Kyle Palmieri. Put money on it. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing. To sign Kyle Palmieri back, then that's another $6 million. He ain't taking less than 6. He made 5 less. You think he's going to take less money? He's not going to take less money. Why would he take less money? If they sign him back, that's another blunder from Lou Lamoriello.
You finished? Can I get a word in? Here's the thing, right? People, he's right. Maybe he's right with how things are going right now. Here's the thing. People are hype on hometown kid. Maybe wants to take a discount. I don't think he's going to take a discount. I think maybe he's going to want similar to what he was being paid there in New Jersey. I think he's going to want a contract that's similar pay there to that. Here's the thing. I don't think people go ahead and buy houses within a week or so, still as the Stanley Cup Finals are going on. Think about trying to juggle all that unless you're planning on staying there for a while.
Again, you can plan on that, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. I've not heard anything that there's contract negotiation between the two sides. Not at all. I mean, so my whole thing is, I don't care that he's moved into the area. That means nothing to me. And here's the thing. As a 30, 31-year-old, what's the one thing that he really wants to do? He wants to cash in on the last big contract he's ever going to sign. That's going to be the most important thing to him. It's not going to be playing on Long Island. It's going to be who's going to give me the most money in the last contract that I'm ever going to sign. That's what it's all about for professional athletes.
Okay. Well,
he's not going to take a hometown discount. It's his last bite of the apple.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to go ahead and try to get a word in here really quickly there, Grumpy Old Man. Again, as I'm going to tell you, our team finds a way to overpay veterans, okay? And for you to be living in this, I think you're perpetuating that he's not going to sign back because you don't want them to sign him back. It's completely different things. You might not want him to sign back. I think the likelihood that he does sign back is awfully high. If I'm taking it and I'm a betting man, I'm putting down money that he's signing back here on Long Island there for the Islanders.
All I'm saying is just because a guy wants to play here doesn't mean that it's a guarantee he gets signed back. And then you have to sacrifice younger players. That's what you have to do. You're going to have to wind up sacrificing your youth again to feed the aged animal that is this team. And it's not conducive to winning. You'll never, if you sign Kyle Palmieri back for big money, you will not win a cup. He is not good enough. He's just a guy.
Okay, Grumpy. Here we go again. You make statements like that make very little sense. How do you feel like them signing back Kyle Palmieri is going to make them have to sacrifice the youth? The youth is not making enough money to offset the addition and the sign of a Kyle Palmieri. If they want to sign back Kyle Palmieri, they're going to have to bare minimum move Jordan. It's almost a 1-for-1. And I think he might be getting paid a comparable salary to what Jordan Eberle made, which is kind of what Kyle Palmieri is making now.
Okay, you just said we needed $8.5 million to sign our restricted guys. Kyle Palmieri is going to demand at least $6 million. Now you have to clear $15 million off of your cap. And then you still have to have a fourth-line center and a third-line winger. That's my point. We are not in a good enough cap situation where we can afford to go out and piss away big money to put like we did with Lee, Nelson, and Eberle. I said at the time those deals were signed, they were bad deals because they're going to hamstring us going forward. And let me tell you something, Bobby Boucher, those chickens are coming home to roost right now.
Well, Grumpy, you're talking about, hey, what do dollar and cents? What does this item look like? Will we have enough cap space available? Well, here we go. I am no mathematician, but I can tell you this. If they go ahead and remove Nick Leddy off the cap, that's $4.4 million if they're able to put him on long-term injury, which you have been asking them to do for years. Andrew Ladd. I've got a few names written down here on the list, jumbled them up. Andrew Ladd, if you're able to put him on long-term injury, that frees up $4.4 million. If you go ahead and offload Jordan Eberle, that's $5.5 million. I don't think Leddy's going to be here long-term. I just don't. That's another guy who's $5.5 million off the cap. That right there, Grumpy Old Man, is your magic number over $15 million. So what I'm telling you I think is going to happen is we're going We're going to move Andrew Ladd to long-term injury. We're going to move Nick Leddy. We're going to move Jordan Eberle. Hell, I really don't think we're going to move Leo Komarov. I think that's a pipe dream for people thinking that, hey, we'll be able to offload him there to the Seattle Kraken. I think what's honestly going to happen, they're going to select Kiefer Bellows, and we're going to have Eberle and Leddy, who we're trying to deal this offseason in some capacity. We're going to sign back Kyle Mary. We're going to get our 3 agents back too.
Yeah, that's a mistake. I'll find. Here's the. I'm on record right now. You're resigning Kyle Palmieri is an absolute blunder and a mistake, and it will not move the needle for us to be a contender. It just won't do it because he's not that good. He just isn't that good. He's just a jag. He's a third-line player. He's a third-line player. So you want to give third-line players $6 million a year. I just think that's dumb, honestly. I mean, and then you're saying, well, they're going to move Leddy. They're going to move Eberle. You know, how are these moves going to happen? I mean, you just think other teams in the league want to bail us out? What are we going to have to give up to get them off our team? More first-round draft picks? More second-round draft picks? I mean, that's what happens when you're up against the cap. Other teams have you an advantage, and they take advantage. And you mentioned about Kiefer Bellows. Well, you know how you stop Seattle from taking Kiefer Bellows? You don't expose him. That's how you do it. You protect him. You protect all the young guys who make no money and expose all the veterans.
Great. Can I get a word in here for a second? Again,
Yes.
Grumpy, I'm going to tell you this here. The only way they sign back Kyle Palmieri is if they move Jordan Eberle. There's no way in hell you can fit Kyle Palmieri on this team and this roster without moving Jordan Eberle. I think they'd rather have Kyle Palmieri than Jordan Eberle. I really do believe that. I think Lou Lamoriello wants it like that too. So here's the thing: what will you have to give up to get rid of a guy like Jordan Eberle? I don't think you're going to have to give necessarily anything up. I think that's a guy who still can actually offer something to other teams. Remember, Jordan Eberle having to play in this system, it's not tailor-made for his game. It's not. He's a guy who plays well, and he plays in a top six role where he plays with guys that are playing with a high-octane head forward check style of offense. He's not a guy who's good when he tries to subjugate it. He's done a really valiant job playing defense here for this team in this role. But it's not his MO to say, hey, we're going to play a full 200-foot game. We're going to work on being more defensively responsible than in the offensive zone. That's not something that's tailor-made to his game. I think he still has value out there to different teams in the league.
Okay. Kyle Palmieri doesn't play a 200-foot game. I don't know what you're talking about. So you want to swap out one guy who's aging and has less years on his contract and just slide another same type guy in on that top line. That's what you're saying. To a longer-term deal, making probably more money than Eberle does. I just think it's dumb. That's all. If they do that, it's stupid. And it's not going to make you a better team. Just isn't.
Well, again, only time will tell. I think that's what's going to happen this offseason. Again, not hugely important. Again, the offseason is going to be long. But again, we'll be going live every single Saturday. I did want to bring this up, Grumpy, before you took the podcast by its reins and started going every which way you wanted to, because, again, you let your little anger bug out there and you start going on a wild road there. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I wanted to bring this up because I know a lot of Islander fans are talking about this. They're talking about, hey, if you look at this goal that Tampa scored, it looks like, when they were shorthanded, they've got too many men on the ice. They've got 5 guys on the ice, right? And it doesn't fit within the parameters of, the skater has to be within 5 foot there of the bench in order for a player entering the field of play to be inserted on the ice, right? So, hey, I see it. It was another missed call by the refs. Still, I think it's inexcusable when there's one forward and you have 3 guys back and you allow the trailer to go in unmarked and score a shorthanded goal. Yeah, sure, the refs missed this one, but, man, Islanders, you have to do better on that. I'm not blaming the refs on this. Sure, they made a mistake, but, man, you got to do better on the defensive side of the puck on that in that scenario.
Yeah, that's your boy Josh Bailey not covering the man coming off the bench. And here's the thing. He wasn't the guy. It was the other guys on the back end that the trouble was. It was all right. That's the second time in the series that the referees missed too many men on the ice on Tampa. It would have negated that goal, but that's not why we lost.
No, and that's the thing. I just know a lot of people are bringing it up. Could they have disallowed this goal because of too many men on the ice? Sure. But I'm sorry, it's still inexcusable that you let a situation like this. You got 3 men staring down the 1 forward there in Tampa, and you let a trailer come in and get an unimpeded shot on that. That's more where I find the issue. Yeah, refs are going to miss calls. They miss calls all playoff long. But, your veterans should not miss this situation here.
I will say that should be a challengeable offense. I will say that. As well as offsides and stuff like that. A coach should be able to challenge too many men on the ice. That should be something, because that's so blatant, honestly, and twice in this series would have stopped 2 goals being scored. And like I said, if we played better, it would have bothered me more. But that should be an offense that is that teams and coaches are allowed to challenge. I firmly believe that. That's an easy one. That's easier than the offsides. As long as you count to 5 or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, duh. As soon as you get to duh, that means that there's too many guys on the ice.
Yeah, Grumpy. Moving right along, though, we got some comments we're jumping into. Again, our all-season podcast won't be as long as some of the regular season podcasts. I know normal time we go like 2.5 hours, sometimes 3 hours. I don't envision our podcast in the offseason to be that long. It'll be lengthy as usual, but probably not the 2.5 hour long variety. Hunter H commenting in there from YouTube saying, do you think Green will retire? Do we keep Palmieri? Zajac is 100% gone, in my opinion. Out of our unrestricted free agents, I look at it like this. Andy Green will retire. Was he 36, 37-year-old defenseman? He's only got so much tread on the tires. Travis Zajac, 35, 36-year-old forward. I think he's got to go. I think they want to keep Kyle Palmieri.
For me, the Tres Diablos all need to go. I don't want anybody who played on the Devils, that loser franchise, on this team. I don't want them. I want them all gone. Let the free agents go. They're not going to be there when your team is finally good enough to win a cup. None of them will be. And they certainly won't be worth the money.
Okay. You say stuff like that. Our team is borderline good enough to win a cup already, Grumpy.
No, we're not. We're not borderline good enough to win the cup. We're never beating Tampa. Never. Never freaking ever. We are never going to beat Tampa. Tampa just flip the switch and beat us anytime they want. Anytime they want. Flip it. They win.
Do you remember how last night you said that game was up for the taking? That could have been a game we won. Now, all of a sudden, what are you recanting that statement? You don't think that Game 7 we could have won? That's a way where you can beat Tampa. If we beat them in the Game 7, we advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. Now you no longer think that we could have beaten Tampa last night?
What I'm saying is the game was up for grabs going into the game. You watch how Tampa controlled that game from the drop of the puck until the celebration. I'm going to ask you, realistically, did you think we were a threat to score at any time during that game? At any time? I didn't think so.
I did think we were a threat at times there throughout the game. I did. Hey, we hit a few posts. We had a few chances. The game wasn't lush with a lot of chances both ways. Some games where they were high octane scoring opportunities, high danger scoring opportunities left and right. It wasn't like that this last game. Game 7 wasn't like that. I thought Game 7 was going to be a game in a situation where it was going to be tightly contested and it was going to be a hard-fought battle. I did believe that.
I was under the impression that Tampa could score a goal really anytime they really wanted to. They just controlled all the play last night, all of it. I mean, and I feel if they wanted to, if we would have scored, they would have probably scored in the next 2 minutes. Okay, guys, let's roll out the offense. They just played. We scored. We're just going to park the bus and let's see what the Islanders can do. Their main guy that they looked at, we got to stop is Matt Barzal. They don't worry about anybody else on this team.
We did have a chance to win yesterday. So again, to answer the question, you still believe we had a chance to win yesterday, which means we could have beaten Tampa in the series, which means we are Stanley Cup contenders.
No, we're not. We're not. We're not. We didn't beat Tampa. We didn't. You know what? Here's the facts. We've come up against Tampa 2 years in a row, and they've beaten us.
So
they outscored us. They outscored us in this series 2-1. 2-1.
Let me ask you this. So there's only two Stanley Cup. There's only two Stanley Cup contenders every single year going into the season. Is that your opinion?
realistic Stanley Cup contenders, there's only a few teams in the league that are realistic Stanley Cup contenders. That's correct. Montreal is not one of them. Montreal is not one of them, by the way.
Well, here's my question. How are all the real Stanley Cup contenders like your Colorado? How did they get knocked out beforehand? They didn't even semis.
Well, they ran up against Vegas. I thought Colorado was a contender. I thought Vegas was a contender.
And Vegas got their ass kicked off the planet by the Montreal Canadiens, another team that you don't think is a contender, right? So here's the thing, though. You could think that certain teams are more talented than other teams, but when it comes down to the brass tacks, I believe certain talented teams are more talented than others. I think there are more talented teams out there than the Islanders. But when you look at the results and you look at how far teams got, the Islanders got further than a hell of a lot more teams out there, and we've done so the last 2 years.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care because we're not good enough to win a cup. We're not good enough to win a cup. It's like saying, okay, give me another Florida Panthers or Carolina Hurricanes. Do you feel that they're a contender for the cup?
Yes.
I don't. You do. You do. Okay, because neither one of them can get past Tampa either. And here's the thing. If we played Carolina, Carolina would have beat us because their style gives us a whole lot of trouble. Florida probably would have beat us because high-octane teams who are aggressive on the forecheck give us a problem. I thought that was the best conference. I thought that was the best division this year was Tampa's division. All three of those teams were really good, and all three of them would have given us a lot of problems.
Okay. When you make comments like that, Grumpy, you send me over the edge. We gave Tampa a lot of problems, okay? As good as that division you may think is or isn't, we took the Tampa Bay Lightning, the best team, a modern-day dynasty, 7 freaking games, more than any other team has this year and will this year, okay? So to think that, hey, if we were playing Carolina, we would have lost, been beaten by them in the first round. The same thing with Florida, right? Those teams all got their freaking asses handed to them against Tampa. We brought Tampa Bay Lightning to 7 games on a 1-0 game in Game 7. Okay,
21-11 were the goals in this series. 21-11. Those are just facts. Those are facts. We didn't beat them, and when Tampa wanted to, they did whatever they wanted. That's how good they are. That's how good they are. For us, like I said, the time for this group is over. I mean, and everyone knows it. Even the coach knows it. And you know what? Good, they're finally come to that realization. Here's the thing. Tampa will probably have to take a little step down next year because they will lose some people due to salary cap issues. They will. And I just think that our opportunity last year was the best. This year, not so much.
Really?
And I don't care that it went 7 games. I don't care that it went 7 games. Did you feel that we really controlled that series at any point in time?
I think at times we did.
Okay, I didn't.
I think at times we showed moments where we looked dominant out there on the ice. And again, like there were periods where it's like, hey, we were the more dominant team. We were taking action to them. I want to say the majority of games at the Coliseum, we were dominant. Except Game 2, every single game at the Coliseum, I thought we were the better team. Every single game. And that's why losing Game 2 was such a freaking stab to the heart. Because we stole the game in Tampa we needed in Game 1. And I'm sorry, not Game 2 in the Islanders, Game 3 there at the Coliseum, which was the first game we had at the Coliseum. Losing that game in the fashion that we did was, that's one that when you look back on it, you shake your head at.
Well, they out-Islandered the Islanders in that game. They played our style and beat us at our style. And I'm going to tell you what, Game 6, even though we won it, I thought that Tampa controlled most of the action of that game. Certainly until Matt Barzal took over at the tail end of the second and the third period. I thought we were the better team in the third period. But before that, I thought Tampa was the best team. And there's no crime in losing to Tampa. They're the best team in the league. They're going to beat Montreal, and that'll be that. But would you consider Montreal a contender? I mean,
yes.
I don't.
Yeah,
okay. You do. Okay.
Here's the thing. Do we consider
I consider them a fluke.
They're a fluke by beating the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Winnipeg Jets, sweeping them, and then by beating the pants off the Vegas Golden Knights, who have been to the Stanley Cup Finals in the last 3 years, have been either been to the Western Conference Finals or greater 2 out of the 3 years they've been around. You don't consider beating a team like that in a 6-game series? You consider that a fluke?
I think they just got hot at the end. They were the last team in the whole league to qualify for the playoffs. They were not that good. And then it's, the whole thing is, so they catch lightning in a bottle 1 year. So what do you think they do next year? They probably sink back to what they're going to normally be at their level. Their goalie is extremely hot, and they got some young guys who are lighting it up right now. That's not going to be enough to beat Tampa. Tampa is just going to flip. You know what? We'll beat them. Just flip the switch. We'll beat them.
Okay. I do think Carey Price is hot. Carey Price is a damn good goalie, though, Grumpy. Carey Price is outstanding. Hey, as our friend there said, Carey Price, goated.
Yeah, I hate that term. And he is playing great, and he is a good goaltender. I never said he wasn't, but he's playing really, really well right now. I just think Tampa, like I said, in Vasilevsky, in series clinching games, he's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. The last 3 series where they clinched, he's had shutouts. That's pretty good.
In series clinching games. For certain it is. And again, I'm not taking anything away from him. Tampa's an uber talented team. Hey, though, you and I are going to disagree. I think we're only a few moves away into really being a star-studded team. I really do believe that. Oliver Wahlstrom this next year is going to take a step forward. I promise you. That son of a gun is going to come ready to play. He's got, when you look at what the mentality that professionals have, he's a guy who's going to be a true professional's professional. He's going to be a guy who I expect to see another quantum leap. You know how some people take that huge leap in their sophomore year, some people take a sophomore slump. I think Oliver Wahlstrom is going to be a guy that takes a quantum leap in his sophomore year. I think Noah Dobson is going to step up in a huge way. That son of a gun needs to hit the gym, get a little stronger, get the mean, nasty edge. That's the most important thing for him. And if you have that, Noah Dobson, I'm going to tell you, if he plays with a little bit more of a mean and nasty edge, that guy could be he could be a top 50 defenseman in the league.
I agree with your assessment of him. The biggest issue that they're going to have for their continued success is the coach giving them the opportunities. He does not like to give opportunities to the young guys. He's almost like he's opposed to it. And that's going to hurt their development long term. Maybe not 5 years from now, but it'll hurt the team. Young guys have upside. The Geezer squad has no upside. That's what Montreal did. They gave the young guys a chance. They took it off and ran with it. That's not something that Barry Trotz lets the Islander young guys do.
Michael M. said, the year of Leo Komarov.
Right? Think about that. That's probably the worst move that Barry Trotz did all year. You trade a first-round pick, a fourth-round pick for Kyle Palmieri, and you don't even try him on the first line. It's not even an option for you. I don't understand it. You're playing Leo Komarov, or you don't put Oliver Wahlstrom, who should be a natural on that line shooting from the off wing. Doesn't even sniff that line. It is what it is. I think that hurt us, though. I think that cost us. Really did.
Yeah. Again, that's one of those decisions that I'll always be scratching my head over. And again, when we talk about how little moves, I think little tiny adjustments could really tilt the needle in the right direction. I believe that's one. If we made a slight change there on Leo, maybe that does help really tilt the needle in the right direction. And it's unfortunate because there's so many good things that Trotz does that brought us to this point. It's just like, hey, one tweak here, one tweak there, and I think we've got the optimal lineup that we can have with the current roster. Again, because at one point in time, our roster is limited with what we have. It is. We're not as talented as some of the other teams out there, but the results that Barry Trotz gets from our roster is much better than the parts that he has on the roster.
I think Barry Trotz is a really good coach. I don't think he's a great game day coach. And that, I think, is the issue. I think he's a superior regular season coach. But his just steadfast refusal to take a chance, to make a move, to make a team potentially be great, I think that's hurt him. I think that hurts him.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexander also said there regarding the tuning on the ice. That's the second time this series the refs missed that, and this time it cost us the series.
True. And I'm sure Trotz knew that as well, and that's why I'm saying that should be a challengeable call. It really should be. That's an easy one. That's an easy one.
Scott Levy tuning back in saying, hey guys, sure, Lou won the general manager of the year again, but why? All he does is trade for 30-plus-year-old players. I will tell you, I am shocked that he did win general manager of the year. And this is the reason why, because as much as people want to say, oh, it's because, it's given out at this time of the year, they look at the postseason success. When they do that, the voting gets finished during the regular season, at the end of the regular season. So a team in the New York Islanders that made it to the semifinals, the Eastern Conference Finals last year, because of great coaching by Barry Trotz, excellent, superb coaching by Barry Trotz, finished fourth in the division and limps their way into the playoffs. And, he wins General Manager of the Year. I didn't necessarily quite get that. If you're able to include what happened in the postseason, I completely understand it. But if you vote on that at the end of the regular season, I guess I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, to me, that was a hey, we know him, vote for him award. I don't think it's what he did. I mean, look at the job Boston did, right? Sweeney trades for Taylor Hall, who was great in the regular season for them. That was a way better deal than the Palmieri deal. Then you look at what Bill Zito did in Florida. Getting those guys to his offseason was great. And then how about Carolina? Jim Rutherford leaves, and gosh, I forget who they brought in to take his spot. But they led Carolina to win the division. I mean, I think those were monumental achievements. And once again, it's a regular season award, not a postseason award. I don't know how they didn't win it.
Don Waddle is who was there.
Waddle, who used to be with Atlanta when the Thrashers first started. I mean, he talked about coming in during the middle of the year. I mean, oh no, I'm sorry, that was Pittsburgh when Rutherford left. I'm sorry, I'm totally wrong on that. But Waddle did a great job too.
Don Waddle there has been with the Hurricanes, I think, since 2018.
Okay, yeah, he took over for Francis, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm happy that Lou Lamoriello won General Manager of the Year. Good for him. I had no idea he hadn't won he's only the last 2 years he's won General Manager of the Year. I think those are the only 2 years he's ever won General Manager of the Year.
Well, I think it's a relatively new award.
Okay,
I think it's only been around since 2012.
Okay, so that would make more sense. Why he's only got 2 of those then. Michael Lem saying 1 for 17 on the power play and Wallstrom sat. It hurts.
It's just it's nonsense. I mean, and it's just his refusal to make a change. You get beat 8-0, and you don't even make one change to a lineup where everyone knows if it was young guys playing, they get beat 8-0, they're all coming out of the game, and he's putting the old guys in there. That's the issue I have with him, his slavish devotion to the old guys on this team. And honestly, it hurts the team as a whole. It really does. I just feel that way.
And Alexander chiming in saying, find a way to get Ladd's contract off the books.
Long-term injury, that gets rid of him.
Yeah.
Isn't it $5.5 million?
No, for 4.4.
Okay.
I just looked at it. Yeah, he's got, and I'll show it to you, Grumpy. He's got 4.4 tied there to the books. And again, the Islanders are going to have to be creative just to show you guys here again. And I'll zoom in because Grumpy, I know he's got old eyes. Right now, we've got projected cap space, $5.7 million in projected cap space, and that is with Anders Lee's contract there on the books. That is without a Kyle Palmieri contract. That's without Travis Zajac signed back. That is without Casey Cizikas. That's without Michael Del Cole. That's without Anthony Beauvillier. Without Braden Colburn, who I don't think we'll bring back. Without Andy Green. Without Adam Pelech. Without Ilya Sorokin. Without Corey Snyder.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys who have to be signed and not a whole lot of money.
You think we're bringing back Michael Del Cole?
Yes.
Yeah. I looked at it. I know he's a restricted free agent, but I'm like, that's a guy where I can pencil in that we're going to bring back.
I have no problem bringing him back if you play him on the fourth line at the expense of one of the older guys. I have no problem with that. You replace the old guys who make money with the young guys who make nothing. Michael Del Cole is not a goal scorer, but he's found his niche in the NHL, right? That's a guy you protect. When come expansion draft, you make them pick a high-priced guy off your team. You protect all the guys who make no money, and you make them pick a guy who makes money. That helps you when it comes to salary cap. To me, a real easy move is trading Varlamov. He was good in the playoffs. Some team will say, you know what, Varlamov is real good. Let's make a trade for him. We got cost certainty for the next 3 years, $5 million for your goalie. You cannot have your backup goalie making $5 million a year. Cannot have it.
What I think might happen, here's the thing. If somebody came up to me and gave an unbelievable offer for Varlamov, because, again, he's had an excellent year last year, played well in the playoffs last year, and had an excellent regular season this year and a really good playoffs as well this year, and they offered you an unbelievable price, man, oh man, I would jump all over it, right? Because long term, what does this team need? Long term, our goalie situation is good. We're solid back there. I think is still going to need, some more seasoning. He's going to still go through some bumps and bumps there in his career. It will. I mean, again, he's a younger goalie, doesn't have a lot of NHL experience, has a lot of KHL experience, not a lot of NHL experience. But if someone's going to give you some significant draft capital or give you a guy who can help contribute on the offensive side of the puck, I think that's the biggest need for us. If they're going to help out with draft capital, that's huge. Our biggest need going forward is replenishing the lack of forward depth we have there in Bridgeport in the A. Besides guys where I'm thinking maybe Golashev might be able to step in, maybe Otto Koivula, if Simon Holmstrom ever, maybe a guy like that, or William DeFore, those are guys are far away. But our forward group, our young forward group there in Bridgeport is nothing that to say, hey, it's highly vaunted. I think we've got a lot of talent there. It's not the case.
That's why you don't trade away first-round picks for aging veterans. That's why you don't do it. But they feel that they were close enough to take a run 2 years in a row. They were not.
See,
they were not. They were not. It wasn't enough. It was not enough to push us over the top. I told you when the trade was made, it was not enough for us to win a Stanley Cup. And I was proven right. But here's the thing. I don't care what somebody offers for Varlamov. If they offer me a second-round draft pick, I'm taking it. Because the most important thing to the Islanders right now is freeing up salary cap space. It's more important than anything else because you cannot make any moves to get better until you free up salary cap space. No one's giving you a first-round pick for a 33-year-old solid goalie. It's just not going to happen. There's too many of them out there.
Grumpy. And again, I'll cap it off one more time. If someone's going to offer you an unbelievable price there for Varlamov and you feel comfortable with Sorokin going forward there as your goalie, you feel like he can foot the bill by himself. Maybe there's a guy out there you can target there as a unrestricted free agent. Maybe you feel like Jakub Skarek can step up and maybe go ahead and fill a backup role. Have no idea. Hey, if they're going to offer you something that can go ahead and replenish there a need that you guys have, do it. Now we've got to shift focus a little bit. We're still are pushing there for playoff success, but in the same token, we want to work on the longevity factor. And a lot of big pieces we can build around this team, which is exciting. Our Matt Barzal's not going anywhere. Our Noah Dobsons are not going anywhere. Our Oliver Wallstroms are not going anywhere. Our Anthony Bavilliers are not going anywhere. Our Adam Pelliks, our Ryan Puloks are not going anywhere. Those huge pieces there on our team are something we can build forward to. And we've got guys like Bolduc. We have guys like Robin Sell. We've got guys like Bodie Wild. We have young defensemen through the wazoo. It's all about building on the offensive side of the puck.
Here's the thing. If you want a backup goalie, this is the year to get them. Expansion draft years are the year to get them because they're all exposed. Every backup is going to be exposed. And even some veterans are going to be exposed. I remember that Vegas had the pick of the litter. They got Marc-Andre Fleury. They could have had Ben Bishop. There were a lot of guys out there who were fantastic. And that's going to be the same thing this year. You're going to see it again. If you want to pick up a goalie, they're always there for the bargain bin. $1-2 million a year, maybe $2.5 million. That's fine. You need to get Varlamov's contract. $5 million for a backup is too much. It's just too much money on a team that's cash strapped.
Grumpy, moving right along there. Michael M said Josh Bailey was lights out until the Tampa series. Here's a link to the game score with microstats. Now, Grumpy, I've got these pulled up. I had to type it in there on Google. You, as well as I don't look at these numbers, so it might be like we're two monkeys looking at something we are not very familiar with, but let's go ahead and show you, Grumpy Old Man. This is what the game score with microstats looks like there. This kind of adds in there how many shot assists you have there, essentially your passing stats, your scoring chances, zone entries there, entries on defense versus penalty kills factored in. You're going to see here on this list, Matt Barzal against the Tampa Bay Lightning had an outstanding series. The highest there, and you happen to notice somebody is all the way down there at the bottom, Grumpy Old Man named Josh Bailey.
That's not a surprise. Against a really class team, he's not a factor. He's just a guy. He scored some lucky goals against – what was his best series? Was it against Pittsburgh?
I thought he had a really good series against Pittsburgh, and I thought he had a really good offensive series against Boston. I thought defensively the second line was miserable against Boston. Offensively, I thought he produced against Boston.
Yeah, and once again, the goalies. Look at hindsight being 2020. Tristan Jarry was a train wreck, and still mind-boggling from Cassidy while you're playing a guy with a torn hip labrum in goal. Just mind-boggling, honestly. Everyone knows my feelings on Josh Bailey. He's just a guy. If anything, I consider him a third-line player, and he's solid. That's what he is, but he's not a difference maker. But if you could move him this offseason to potentially get a second-round pick and get $5 million off your cap, I'd do it in a second. I mean, that maybe he's appealing to a team like Seattle, who's going to need – I mean, let's be honest, right? Josh Bailey he's a solid citizen. Nothing about him as a person. Maybe, they want somebody like that to be a leader on their team. He's not captain material, but he's an okay assistant.
Okay. I think you're underselling him a little bit. I don't think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I think he's more than an okay assistant. I think he's a perfect assistant captain. I think he's a great leader there on and off the ice. And I think he does have a lot of production in the playoffs. You talk about a guy who's got a lot of leadership factors there to him. He's a veteran and he knows what it takes there to be a true professional. That's a guy, great locker room guy. We're full of them here, though.
Yeah, I didn't rip him. I just said I don't think he's a captain material, but he's an okay assistant. That's all I said. That's not underselling him. If I would have said, he's not even an assistant material, then that's ripping him. I mean, I think he's a fine assistant. He's just not a captain material. I just don't think he's boisterous enough. He just isn't. I don't think he's a leader.
Scott L. said, Grumpy, what teams do you think besides Seattle will take money in their contracts from the Islanders? I don't see any team doing that. Here's one thing I will tell you I could see happening. Look at Detroit. Detroit has $50 million in available cap space. They're going to have to find a way to get to the floor, right? They've got young guys like Cedar coming up. They got young defensemen coming up there through the systems. They have a lot of young guys coming through the system. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Stevie Y might look at a guy like Nicoletti or be interested in a guy like Nicoletti there for some draft capital. The Detroit Red Wings have had a plethora of picks every single year in and year out. And I could see they still have a lot of picks coming up in this year's draft as well as next year's draft. I could see them easily looking at a guy like if Nicoletti was made available, looking at a guy like Nicoletti who still has a year left on his contract, who can help teach some of these young guys what it's like there to be professional there in the NHL and what it takes there to make the playoffs. A guy like that who's got veteran leadership and maybe they can go ahead and extend his contract. They are $50 million under the cap space. So I think Detroit, if you're looking for a partner there, if they're willing and the Islanders are willing to get rid of Nicoletti, I think that might be a viable option.
You want to see how to do a rebuild from a team that was not a contender the last few years, making the playoffs, 30 years in a row? That's how you do it. They take their established veterans, they move them for picks. That's what they do. Are they ready to be a contender? No. But I don't know how much salary cap they want to take on. Maybe they take on a Nicoletti. Maybe they take on a Jordan Eberle. I don't know. That would help the Islanders tremendously. Ottawa's a team that has some salary cap money available, but not a whole lot of teams do. And I'll be honest with you, Scott, I haven't done a deep dive on it yet, but I will. I just didn't have time to do it today. But that's like for off season, when we get closer to expansion draft and stuff like that, we'll definitely have an issue on what teams we could possibly make trades with to offload some of our cap.
And again, to speak a little bit to this about, hey, what has Detroit done regarding their draft picks as of recent? And the thing is, they've had a lot of good picks. They've had a lot of picks in the first two rounds. You look at it from 2018, in the last 3 years, they've had 4 different first round picks, and they've had 7 different second round picks in the last 3 years. And again, third round picks, they've had a plethora of different third round picks as well. They've had a total of, just calculating here, 6 third round picks. So you're talking about, hey, 7 second round picks, 4 first round picks, in I think it was 6 or 7 different third round picks. They've had a lot of draft capital they've been drafting. Now it's about how do we cultivate these young guys that we started drafting that are ready to start breaking their way into the NHL. You need to start making sure you got the veteran leadership. You need to make sure that you've got guys who can help them break in. And in order to establish that confidence there for him, I think they might be a team that's looking to go ahead and slightly augment their team with some veteran leadership so they're ready to go and to start building on those young players to get them developed.
Yeah, but they have the other teams over a barrel because everybody else is up against the cap, so they can get guys, for 5 cents on the dollar. I mean, they don't have to give up a whole lot. But see what happens. You think about all those years and years and years they were picking in the late 20s. And, eventually that it was a great job to keep that team together as long as they did over that sustained run. And that's the way you do it. When it's time to rebuild, it's just time to rebuild. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what do? They offload their veterans while they still have value to pick up more assets coming in. That's something that we are going to have to embrace at some point in time.
And I think we will. Michael M. said, to no surprise, Barzal by far was the best Islanders during the Tampa series.
What it says to me, right? Some guys step up in the big moments and some guys shrink. This kid stepped up in the biggest of moments against Tampa, the best team in the league, and they were scared of him. You could tell by the way they played when he was on the ice. Everything was funneling where we're going to stop this kid, and he was still successful. If we had anyone who could have shot the puck on his line, we would have had maybe a better outcome.
And here's the thing. I've told you this before, and I'm going to tell you it again. Matt Barzal took a quantum leap forward in his game and all facets of his game this year. I know the point production wasn't there. Remember, he played over half the year with Leo Komarov as his left wing. So, next year going forward with, a little bit more normalcy, a little bit more of a prototypical first line left winger there, I think we're going to see monster numbers for Matt Barzal. I'm excited for him. I'm still very bullish on his future.
He needs to play with Oliver Wahlstrom. He must play with Oliver Wahlstrom.
I agree.
I don't want to see Anders Lee on that line. I want to see Anders Lee playing on the second line. And, we don't know who we're going to lose. So this is just predicated on most guys coming back, like a Bailey and a Nelson, which I hope that's not the case. But if they do, I would like to see a line because I thought they always play together, Lee, Nelson, Bailey. I've always thought they've looked good together. And Anders Lee does not fit with Matt Barzal. Just does not.
Frank D said, I think Green is going to be gone. I'm old and grumpy, so I feel that one for him. Yep. And then Michael M said, Leo Komarov was tied for the lowest 5-on-5 entries on the team, only with Noah Dobson, a defenseman. Think about how many times he was able to enter the zone there in 5-on-5 play, cross over that blue line there, and get some type of sustained pressure. Defenseman had better entries than him.
But what did I tell you, right? Also, the whole thing I was saying, where's Leo Komarov? He's never in the offensive zone. It's like 2 against 4, 2 against 5 back there because he never comes into the zone. They'll be in the zone for 15, 20 seconds. Oh, there he is. Now he's going to cross the blue line. I mean, you can't play like that. That's why it drives me crazy when I hear people, oh, Matt Barzal needs to make his teammates better. Well, if your teammate is me, I don't care if it's me out there on the ice. Matt Barzal is not going to make me a better player because I'm finished as an athlete. And so is Leo Komarov.
Hold on. You're finished, Grumpy, as an athlete? You couldn't get out there and strap it up and still teach those young bucks what it is?
I could play on some of the Islander lines, but not the Matt Barzal line. I can do just as much as Josh Bailey does.
Oh, stop. Scott L. said, no more Geezer Brigade.
Yeah, stop it. It's over. It's over. Embrace it.
Louis C. said, tired of the veterans.
Again, it's not that I hate the veterans, but there's a ceiling with them. Their ceiling is what it is. And their ceiling just gets lower and lower and lower and lower every year. The older and older they get, the ceiling goes lower and lower. That's why you get rid of the old guys, incorporate the young guys. Maybe they have a lower floor, but they have a much higher ceiling.
Hunter H. said, do we sign Ovechkin? Laughy faces. No, unfortunately not. And nowhere near the cap space either to sign him.
I take the same way I think about Ovechkin, who's an all-time great, without a doubt, as I take with every other player in his 30s, and he's well into his 30s. You don't sign those guys to long-term deals. You just don't do it. I'd much rather invest in 2 or 3 younger guys who have a chance to get better than some guy who's going to be tailing off.
Michael M. said, I do think Palmieri, if over $4 million is a pass, we have younger players who could fit in.
If he wants to take a 2-year deal at $4 million per, I'm willing to do that. But we have to offload other guys first. I'm willing to do that. Yes, I would. But I don't want to pay a guy like that $6 million and he's in his 30s for like, what, 3-4 years? No way. No way. He's not that good. He's not good enough to get that contract.
You're not that guy, bro. You're not that guy.
He's not that guy. Bro.
Have you seen that video?
No.
Oh man. Don't worry. I'll get it for us. John V said this team was their injured captain away or a couple of lucky bounces from winning this year.
Yeah, ifs and buts and a bag of nuts. Sorry, every team has injuries. I don't buy it. We weren't beating Tampa. Doesn't matter. We weren't beating Tampa. I don't care if Bossy came back and played. We weren't beating Tampa.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Tampa's just too good. The best team in the league.
Oh, goodness gracious, grumpy old man. Moving right along there, Michael M. said, I'm the biggest critic of Lee in for Leo, and Wallstrom in for Zajac, in my opinion, would have made them a cup contender. They were close. Yeah, see, Grump, I think we're a lot closer, and they're a lot closer than you think. Again, everybody has injuries. What kind of scared me is we traded for the guy who should have been the left wing, to replace Lee, but we never really put him in that position. And we said we're just going to slap Leo Komarov there. And I heard excuses from, because Leo can help in the face-off dot, which made very little sense to me, never will make sense. That's the reason why you wanted to hinder the offensive production of the first line. I do think we're closer to winning a Stanley Cup or being a Stanley Cup contender than you believe, Grumpy.
We're not, because we need to move salary off of the roster. So you're going to lose a lot of guys. And they're older. We're not getting any better. See, that's my whole point has always been the same. No shame in my game because I'm always the same. Older teams need to shed the older guys and let the young guys come up. If they were 25 or if they were 26, 27, 28 years old, yes, they have a chance to be a real contender. But not when everybody's in their 30s. That's the whole crux to my point. They're all in their 30s. They're not getting better. Players don't age like wine. They age like vinegar. That's what happened.
Grumpy, I'm going to play this sound clip for you. So you've never heard that, trust me, guy. Trust me, guy, pal. You're not that guy. You've never heard that little clip yet?
No.
It's it's making all the rounds. It's been out for like a few months, but it's hugely popular. It's a meme now these days.
How's that? Fuck you where you breathe. Okay?
Why are you coming
Don't tell me what the fuck to do. How's that, pal?
I didn't tell you what to do.
You did. You said don't talk to people who you don't know. I'll talk to whoever the fuck I want to know.
Oh, a lot of curse words on that. I had no idea. But he's like, he comes out and he's got the famous line of, "You're not that guy, pal. You're just not that guy." And he comes up and asks him, "Are you that guy?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm that guy." So I thought that fit perfectly in that little clip there. Moving right along there. Jerry B said, expose Everly. He's 31 years old. He's the definition of a Jag. I would so much rather have Brock Nelson on this deal or Pajot, even the $6 million man. Those guys have heart. Brock Nelson just had a kid.
I don't care if he had a kid. In the expansion draft, I'm exposing Everly. I'm exposing Nelson. Pajot is a guy I keep. He's the one guy who makes money on this team, him and Barzell, that I protect. Everybody else is exposed. Why? Because of the term of their deals and the fact they're going to be in their mid-30s when they're over. Those are the guys that you expose. Let's see if Seattle, the Kraken, will take a shot on one of those guys. I think there is value to those players for an expansion team, particularly after playing in a Barry Trotz system. They're solid. They're fundamentally solid. And Brock Nelson, I'm not advocating for him to go, but, if he had to go, he's got to go. He makes $6 million. That's $6 million off your cap. He's not going to be getting any better than he is right now. And he's the guy who's benefited the absolute most from Barry Trotz as being a head coach.
Here's the thing. I think we like having 4 solid lines that have good center play on them. I don't think here's the thing. If you're gonna get rid of Casey Cizikas, there's no way they'd look to move a guy like Brock Nelson in the same token. They're not going to take away 2 of their centers. I think centers are actually probably our biggest position of strength.
I'm just saying that. I'm just saying for the expansion draft, guys that I'm exposing. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I'm protecting every young guy that they could possibly want. I'm protecting those guys. I mean, and we're going to do our expansion draft episode. We are going to do that.
There's a lot of time. We'll talk about the expansion draft. We got a lot of things we're going to be talking about. Jerry B also said expose Eberle over Bailey.
I say expose them both. There's no reason not to expose both of them.
Paul W. said Trotz is getting Ovechkin.
No.
I just don't think we got the space.
No way.
Byron FC said $4.5 million for Palmieri. I think that is a neutral deal where both teams can work it out. He's taking a hometown discount. He's taking a pay decrease. I think that would work out for both parties.
You're not going to see him take a hometown discount. It's his last bite of the apple. It's his last bite of the apple.
Jerry V said, "What if Kyle Palmieri likes to flip property?"
I think he's got himself a series on the I don't know what's that show, Property Hunters or something like that. No problem there. And like I said, just to say that he's definitely coming back because he bought a house, that's just ignorant. Sorry.
He's planning on coming back. You don't buy a house here unless you plan on coming back. That's all I'm going to say. He plans on coming back.
So right? You say he's live in a cardboard box somewhere?
Okay. Here's the thing. You don't go out there looking to buy a house. And I know you said, we haven't seen anything saying that they're looking to go ahead and sign him back yet. We also haven't seen anything saying that, hey, we're in active negotiations with Adam Pelech or in active negotiations with Anthony Baviglia. We haven't seen anything like that either, but it doesn't mean they haven't been talking about it or haven't talked about it in the past.
Okay. I just say it's a mistake to sign him back. Unless you get him real cheap. I wouldn't even go 4.5, $4 million. You're a guy in your 30s. We're up against the salary cap. Take it or leave it. And then put the ball in his court.
Alexander said, hell no, Palmieri will not get $7 million a year from anyone. Grumpy. That's when you tried to say Palmieri, to prove your point, make $7 million a year, get paid $7 million a year in offer. I was like,
I believe what I said was, what if someone offers him $7 million a year? That's what I said.
And there ain't nobody's offering $7 million. Moving right along there. Frank D said, Letty must go.
Yep. And I've been saying that for years. But they love him. I don't care. You could have moved him 2 years ago and gotten a first-round draft pick. Now what are you going to get to move a guy like that? That's called maximizing your assets. Everyone saw 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that Nick Letty's play was declining. Everyone saw it. So you're proactive. You move those guys a year too early rather than a year too late. You cash in on it.
Owen J said, no, Kyle Palmieri.
I agree.
Jerry Bennett said, expose Letty and Eberle. Eberle is bullshit. Here's the thing. What does our defense look like next year? I think we're going to see Samuel Bolduc on the Islanders in some capacity. People are throwing out, maybe we might see, Sebastian Aho finally get his chance. Remember, Aho is signed to a one-way contract. If the Islanders don't have him on the roster next year, he'll be eligible for somebody to pick up via waivers. I
think he and Scott Mayfield would make a really, really good third pairing. Really good. Aho's a puck mover. A lot like Devon Taves. Not as good as Devon Taves, but really good. And this way, you're going up less of competition as a third liner. That's I think that Scott Mayfield would really be a good fit. Really good fit on the third pair. You move Dobson up to second pair, and you're going to need to get another, and they'll get another veteran defenseman. They will not roll out Samuel Bolduc to play next year. You're not going to see it.
Okay. I think he might get, bottom line minutes, perhaps. I think we're going to look for maybe a guy who's a veteran defenseman. I don't think we bring back Colburn. I don't think we bring back Green. I think we might be looking for Mr. Outside Hire, Mr. Outside Defenseman, Mr. Outside Cheap Veteran Defenseman who's an unrestricted free agent, maybe a 32, 33-year-old defenseman that we're going to be like, holy crap, why are we looking at him? I think that's what we're going to look at.
Alec Martinez is a free agent at the end of this year. I've always liked him. Always liked him. I'd love to see him as a pickup for us. I think he and Dobson would make a really good pair back there. Always like Martinez. Always.
Alec Martinez, 33 years old, so he would fit technically into that mold of, hey, looking for the older veteran defenseman. And I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue bringing in a 32, 33-year-old defenseman on a short-term contract when you have so many young guys you're trying to break in. You want to make sure they've got an old veteran partner that can teach them and show them the ropes.
Right. That's what Andy Green was doing with Dobson, but he can't do it anymore. But Alec Martinez is still good.
Alexander said a fourth-line center is easy to find.
Otto Koivula. Why not give Otto Koivula a shot? They only play, on most teams, tops 10 minutes a game. Tops 10 minutes a game. That kid has shown that he has some offensive ability when he plays the center position. He's obviously been he's good on the forecheck. He still needs to improve his skating, but that's what you should do. You break in your rookies on the fourth line, and you have them move up the lineup. That's how they get experience.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Otto Koivula is no spring chicken. He's a guy who's had a lot of experience there at center. He's a guy who's had success there before in Bridgeport, also overseas before this year in Bridgeport too. So he's had success. That's a guy who, if now is not the time, there never will be a time for him in this organization. Moving right along there, Jerry Bennett also says there, I agree with Grumpy. I don't think you're going to want to see Bullock out there regularly. Trotz won't roll a guy out there regularly with no NHL experience.
100% correct.
John V also said Wahlstrom and Bellows should both have starting roles next year. Wahlstrom definitely should. No doubt he should be top 6. I would like to see Bellows in the lineup. I think he's just going to be exposed, and that's who Seattle is going to pick if I had to go out on a limb.
Bellows would be a perfect third-line winger. He showed he could play on the first line. Think about that. Scored 3 goals in 3 games playing on the first line and never gets another shot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The kid has scoring potential. What do we need? Scoring. You won't give him a shot. That's on the coach.
Eve. Our friend Eve. I'm not going to try the last name, Grumpy. You're just going to be known as, I'm just going to say Eve. No last name. Eve L said, let's get younger, faster this summer, Lou. Couldn't agree more.
That's what I've been preaching for 2-3 years now.
Paul W said, Ross Johnson needs more playing time. Yeah, I'm sorry. They just never utilized him. I don't think they ever will. I think we're happy with Matt Martin. Matt Martin played well in the playoffs this year. Again, I think the fourth line as a whole played really well. They showed up this year in the playoffs. You won't see Ross Johnson in there in any capacity. He's just always going to be a guy who's captain healthy scratch.
I never understood why they signed him to a 4-year, $1 million per year job if he was never going to play for the team. It just didn't make any sense. It still doesn't make any sense. And that was when they brought Martin back. It's like, okay, so you're not going to, they're going to play Martin. Why did you sign Ross Johnston back? He's only played a handful of games in 3 years now. And they changed him from what he was to try to mold him once again. Barry Trotz, instead of taking what the player does best and molding his style around the player, he tries to change the player to fit into his system.
Jerry B also said Noah Dobson and Sorokin don't have to be protected. Do you know what other guys are exempt from being picked? I know guys like, you're all for Wahlstrom are exempt from being picked and selected. Those younger guys there in the contract don't have to be, protected per se. But there are majority of our players on our squad there are going to be eligible to be selected. We have a veteran-heavy team. So, again, you're all for Wallstroms, your Noah Dobsons, your Sorokins. Those core pieces right there, our future core pieces, do not have to be protected, which is good.
I believe it's guys with 3 years or less of experience or on entry-level deals do not have to be protected.
Absolutely there. John V. also said, I agree. We shouldn't be spending big money on Palmieri. Rather go with youth.
Let's transition to the future now.
Eve also said, is it time to dismantle the fourth line? If so, who do you put on our new fourth line? I think it's time to maybe look, unless Casey really wants to take a deal on the cheap, you got to maybe say, hey, time for Otto Koivula to finally get his chance. Man, the guy's going to be 25 years old who's shown offensive potential down there in Bridgeport. He's shown offensive potential overseas. He's a guy I've been excited about for years. I don't know. I'm ready to see him get a chance.
Michael Del Cole's another guy who could play on the fourth line. I think he'd do a good job.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I think Michael Del Cole, he'll never live up to where he was drafted, but he's a guy who has heart. He's a guy who throws the body around, who puts maximum effort there on the ice. I will tell you one thing that does kind of concern me a little bit with Michael Del Cole. He's had a few injuries. Again, Casey, for the most part, these last 2 years has been unbelievably healthy. Knock on wood. That is not something we had seen throughout the majority of the early to even the middle part of his playing career. He was a guy who was always banged up, and these last 2 years, he's been miraculously healthy.
Yeah. Is he worth $3.5 million a year? No, he's a fourth line center. It's all about where you are in the lineup. Fourth liner should not be making $3 million a year. Our salary structure is totally topsy-turvy from what it should be.
Jerry B said, "Can we offload Captain Average to Seattle? Laughing my ass off. $7 million a year for 7 years in a row to watch a Moose skate with the puck." Oh, here's the thing. That's going to be a contract towards the tail end that is going to be awful. Oh, that's going to be hard to watch out there on the ice when he's, that's going to be Andrew Ladd 2.0 if you're not proactive about trying to find a way to get rid of him. Right now, it looks okay. We can kind of squint at it and say, $7 million a year can maybe justify it. 4 or 5 years from now, we will not be saying the same thing.
Nope. I would, he'd be another guy I'd expose. Once again, the whole key to this offseason and the potential to get better is to get money off of your cap. And here's the thing, Anders Lee, maybe a team like maybe the Kraken would like to take, hey, he's captain, he's productive out there, he's a leader, and he is all those things. He's not a skater, he's not a playmaker, he's dependent on other people, but he is a leader. And you could do a lot worse than him as the first captain of your franchise. And $7 million a year for, another 5 years? They can afford that. We can't.
Yeah, Grumpy.
36 years old he'll be, making $7 million for a guy who can't skate.
Deidre C said, "Do you think Kucherov was badly injured? Because he looked fine to me."
I think he was injured. I think they shot him up for the game, but he definitely looked injured out there, particularly early on.
I'm just going to tell you this. Rosner there, I can't remember, I think it was Donald Rosner, he tweeted out before the game that Kucherov had broken ribs and that he was going to miss via some sources that he was in touch there with. And again, I'm sorry, this is Steven Rosner. This is Donald Rosner's their brother, the guy who owns Blue Line Deli Bagels. But this was that was the news that he had some broken ribs. Not sure he did or didn't, but he made it out there on the ice. I thought he was definitely looked like he was struggling out there.
Yeah, I thought he was too. But, adrenaline kind of kicks in. They probably shot him up before the game. And like they say, the rest is history. I don't think he was the same player that he usually was, though.
I will tell you also, it was nice to see all the Islander fans out there greeting all the Islanders as they came off the plane here today. That was excellent to see.
Islander fans are the best. They're the best fans, without a doubt.
Ryan T said, "At the end of the game, we had Varlamov pulled with around 1 minute and 20 seconds left. I really thought the puck went out of play. Even the broadcaster said it did. And the players seemed to stop on the ice. I'm pretty sure the whistle never blew until the end of the game. Was that not something that could be looked at? Could they have put some more time back on the clock and played the end of the game over?"
Here's what would have happened. If we would have scored, Tampa Bay would have challenged that the puck went out of the zone, and they would have been right, and they would have taken the goal off and stopped the clock at when the puck went out. I think the referees just missed that, and they just let it play out. But I was thinking about them like, man, if we score here, they're gonna look at that, and they're going to take that goal away.
Think about that. Think about how crazy that BS is, because I think the exact same thing would happen. There's no way we could have challenged it or to say, hey, we need you to put more time back on the clock. When they tied it up in the corner, the puck should have originally been blown dead. There's no way they're going to look at that. But if we scored, bet my bottom dollar that they were going to pull some BS like that, and they would have been right and would have taken a goal off the board. Yeah. Moving right along there. John V also said there, came within 1 goal without our captain, and we're never beating Tampa. Clown show, Grumpy.
We're not beating Tampa. I don't care if Anders Lee would have been in there or not. We were not beating Tampa. Tampa would have upped their game. Because guess what? When they had to up their game, they did. I think they're just sleepwalking through these playoffs. It's the same thing. They'll have a bad game. All of a sudden, they come out and they'll blow a team out. They're just that good. They're just that good.
Jerry B. also said, question for Grumpy and TJ, 7 forwards and 3 defensemen. Give us your lineups on who you're keeping right now and why. Noah Dobson and Sorokin. One has to be protected. Yeah, and neither would Oliver Wahlstrom. Here's the thing. I don't know. We're going to have to – I'm going to have to go ahead. We'll have to have a podcast specifically dedicated to the expansion draft. We're going to kind of go through all the nuances. I don't want to kind of half-ass it and kind of bring it up there in passing. I think this is one we're going to want to do some research for and give us our exact reasoning behind every single person so we can go ahead and make sure we're doing that. And again, we have an article too we'll be looking at here, probably next podcast. They're talking about who had more of their fingerprints on the team and the structure of the team. Was it Lou Lamoriello or Garth Snow? We're going to talk about, the legacy of Garth Snow and if that is more rosy than when it was when he originally left. I think there's a lot of things we got to talk about here this offseason. So there's going to be a lot of good talk here in the offseason there. Alexander also said there, I think you trade away Varlamov, maybe bring in a backup there to Sorokin. But who are the top backups? Like, you can really slide anybody in and out, I think, to be successful in the series or in this system. But if we can get some draft capital there for trading away Varlamov, I jump all over it. We need young forwards. We need some forwards in our depth charts and in the A. Yeah,
we need money. Money's the most important thing. That's what we need is cap space. You can't make any moves without cap space.
Mm-hmm. Deidre C there said, not enough shots and not enough sustained pressure. I just think the shorty was a backbreaker.
Yeah, Tampa Bay dominated from beginning to end because they knew they could. Like I said, even if we would have tied it up, Tampa, within 2 minutes, they would have taken the lead again. They parked the bus early.
John V also said, after Montreal wins the cup, will they then be a contender?
Come back to me if Montreal wins a cup. That's all I'll say. And I picked Montreal to have a shot to beat Vegas. I don't think they're okay, are they a contender? Yes, because they're in the finals. Are they a long-term contender? I don't believe so.
Ooh, moving along there. Godzilla said, Grumpy is a little worked up, but he's right, TJ. The Islanders always have been a deep playoff team, but not a winner unless you say goodbye to a few of the old fellas.
Yeah, and here's the thing. A lot of Islander fans, and eventually it'll change, okay, especially if we're a contender for, like, let's say 5 or 6 years and we get to the same spot every year, or we lose in a second round or whatever. We're always in the playoffs, but we're not winners. And then you're going to hear people complain that we're not good enough. We need to make moves so we're good enough to win. Those were the rumblings around the Islander teams in the late 70s. The team needs to be broke up, right? Because that's what happens when you're in a playoff hunt for year after year. It's what do you need to get over the top to win a cup, because it's about winning the cup. But a lot of Islander fans who have been Islander fans for the last 20 years, all they know is losing. And when that's the case, you're just excited to make the playoffs. Me, I always wanted to win the Stanley Cup, always.
Paul O.C. there said, I think we should get rid of some of the soft players like Eberle Bailey, not Palmieri, even though he's 30, because he has grit. I'll tell you one thing, that's right. Palmieri he's got fight, he's got grit to him.
Yeah, he's just got to be on the cheap. For me to take him back, he's got to be on the cheap. I'm not overpaying for a guy in his 30s. No long-term either. Tops, $4 million, 3 years. That's all I'm offering you.
Godzilla said Tampa is going to be the team to beat for the next couple of years, and they're in our conference, so we have to figure out a way to get past them.
I think Tampa will take a step down next year because I don't think they'll be able – they don't have enough injuries. The only way they were able to make this year's salary cap work at the beginning of the year was putting Kucherov and his $10 million, whatever it was, on long-term injury. That's the only way they were able to get underneath the cap, where he couldn't play during the regular season.
Yeah. We got another comment here from Jerry B saying, and Grump, if it came down to Eberle and Bailey, who would you have to keep one, lose one to Seattle or somewhere else? Who are you keeping? If you can't get rid of both of them, which one would you want to get rid of and why?
I guess I would want to get rid of Eberle first because he has a longer term on his contract for more money. For me, it's all about the money this offseason. Josh Bailey has, 2 years left on his deal, where I think Eberle has 3. I think Eberle.
They both have 3 years left on their contract. Eberle makes $500,000 more a year.
Okay. Well, if it's the same amount of years, I'd rather keep Eberle because I hate Josh Bailey. He just doesn't produce at all. I'm sorry.
Here's the thing too, right? People are going to say, "Oh, you can't just easily move Eberle." Eberle is going to have a modified no trade clause, but he's going to have to submit 16 teams that he does not want to be traded to. So again, you're going to have 16 teams that he's going to be eligible, or he'll allow a trade to there going forward.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Then I would much rather have Seattle take him in expansion draft, because then you could try to trade Josh Bailey somewhere else. And coming off the playoffs he had, he was good in the first couple of rounds. He is what he is, but he did put up numbers, and teams look at numbers. So if he's a guy I could move, I would definitely do that. I think he's easier to move than Eberle because he plays a more well-rounded game.
Here's the thing. Eberle still is movable. There's still 16 different teams who will be allowed to be traded to this coming year. Leo Komarov is a guy who can be traded to the majority league. He has to submit a 7-team no-trade list. So again, you're going to have more flexibility if you ever were trying to offload somebody like that. Here it is. That again, long time in the offseason to still look at that. Moving right along there. Godzilla also said, "I love that we're a legit team now, but we need another 25 goal scorer." And I think Wallstrom can grow into that. But he also says there, in 1980, the answer was Butch Goring. Who now?
Yeah, what Butch Goring wasn't, we didn't need scoring back then. It was about someone who he brought levity to the room. He taught the team how good they were. He was second line center, right? But he wasn't brought in. He was brought in for his intangibles, his ability to play the penalty kill, just his leadership qualities. And that's what the team needed this time. Remember, all these guys were drafted, mind you, within a 3-year period of time. And they all grew together, but they needed a voice in the room. It used to be Eddie Westfall when he went. Think about how they went through captains. Gillies was captain. Potvin was captain. Having an older guy then to guide you is what put us over the top. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Adrian says, "Hey, TJ and Grumpy Old Man, how are you guys doing today after the Game 7 loss last night?"
I tell you what, I am so appreciative that she cares about how we feel today. Adrian, I'm doing fine. I hope you are too.
Yeah, we're doing fine. We're doing fine. Brian P said, "What's up, fellas? Is this live? For certain it is. We go live now in the off season every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if there's any time we won't be able to make it on a Saturday at 7 p.m., we'll let you know plenty of time in advance." Frank D said, "TJ over Baghdad Bob." Who's Baghdad Bob?
I don't know.
Oh, fair enough. And then Godzilla said, "I do love that we are Tampa Bay's nightmare these days. Tampa Bay fans will agree with it too."
At the end of the day, they beat us 2 years in a row. That's just the bottom line. They beat us 2 years in a row. We couldn't beat them.
Moving right along there. Ryan T also said, "At the end."
You already put that one up.
That was also a duplicate. Sorry about that. I do apologize there. Moving along there. Brian P. also said, "Agree, Grumpy. I think Montreal might miss the playoffs."
Yeah, they were last day qualifier. Today, I think they're a fluke for this year. They have some good young talent, but
Dietrich C. also said, "The Islanders need a few tweaks and we'll be back." I agree. And the Islanders are contenders. I also agree. And Trotz needs to put together better lineups out there. Also, don't disagree. Let's see what Lou does. Hey, Lou better. I want Lou to earn that General Manager of the Year award he's got in the last 2 years. I want him to earn it this offseason. I think he can.
The only disagreement I have is we need a few tweaks. The thing is, it's not like our players are 25, 26 years old like they were in the Dynasty era. They're all in their 30s. So they're not getting any better. They're going to be getting worse. That's why I think it's more than tweaks. I think we need to do a fundamental restructure, moving out the guys in their 30s and bringing in younger players. That's what I feel we need to do if we want to really contend and win Stanley Cups.
Moving right along there. Bruce M said, "Forget Bailey. Watch the turnover on the power play ball, Palmieri. That started the play."
And nobody pressuring Ryan McDonough. that they just stood there and let him make a play as opposed to forcing him to dump it out of the zone. It never happens if someone goes after him and makes him clear the zone. It never happens.
I'm smiling. I'm sorry, Grump, because of the comment here. I love this comment by Jerry B. He said, I'm basically 100% positive that Vasilevsky's on performance-enhancing drugs. If you look at him at the beginning of the game without his helmet on, he had that wild, crazed look in his eyes like a lunatic. It's funny. Like some goalies, the reason I'm smiling is because some goalies, look back in the old days, some goalies just had that wild, crazy look. They were just like freaking menaces out there on the ice. Not a guy you'd want to run into in street clothes. Some goalies just have that look about him. And it's funny that you bring that up because he's an outstanding goalie, that he has like that mentality and the wild, crazy nature about him, like some goalies used to have back in the 80s.
I remember Patrick Waugh, when he was on his game, he never freaking blinked. Never saw him blink. Yeah, never blinked. I'm like, he's in the zone.
Godzilla said also Montreal is a fluke. Dallas did the same thing last year, and look at them. Don't overrate cup runs that happen for no reason.
And that's my whole point. They're technically a contender this year, but I don't think they're a contender. You're going to see Montreal, be in the finals, or for a number of years. I just don't see it right now.
I will tell you this: Montreal does have a lot of young players who have been contributing, and that's the reason, the impetus as to why they have been successful here in the playoffs. So I think that does, maybe add a little bit more validity to it. Maybe the light finally clicked there, and they say, "Hey, I need to go ahead and play Suzuki more often, Caulfield more often, etc." Blah blah blah. You could say it's happened before in the past, like your Ottawa Senators. They made it there to the finals and then completely collapsed, or made it to the semis and then completely collapsed. They've made runs there, just like the Dallas Stars have, and they collapse right afterwards. I just think that Montreal's got a lot of young players that are contributing though too.
I want to say something about Godzilla. I love the pensive look of his picture, and he's made some very salient points today.
Fair enough there, Grumpy. Brian P. also said Wallstrom, I think, could be a first-line left winger or first-line winger, but will he play him?
See, that's my concern. He should be the guy playing on Barzal's wing. But is he going to suffer from the same things that Barzal suffers from, that Barry Trotz doesn't care if you score? It's all about playing defense, team defense first. I'm going to tell you again, first lines need to score. That's their main job, is to score. I think he'd be perfect with Barzal.
I don't disagree. Grumpy old man. Also, Alexander said, is Puljujarvi there still available for Edmonton? Yes, Puljujarvi.
See, he's a guy, I'm sure he is, but he's a guy who, you take a flyer on because he's not going to get paid a whole lot of money, and maybe you catch lightning in a bottle.
Again, another guy who's younger, 23 years old there for Edmonton, produces points. But here's the thing. Edmonton's not a team that needs to continue to bolster their offensive side of the puck. They're a team that needs to address goalie needs, and they need to address defensive needs. A guy like Puljujarvi there, right wing, can also play a little bit there, possibly on the left wing side there. A guy who can add maybe a little bit more offensive pop, a guy who maybe has a scoring threat if you give him more extended minutes.
Maybe you could move a Nicoletti for a Puljujarvi and a pick. That kind of gets some money off your cap. It gives you potential for someone to actually score for your team. And that's what you need, is improved scoring. But if he don't, like I said, but again, the biggest issue is Barry Trotz. Will he play a guy if he's not 100% dedicated to defense? And to me, he needs to change his mindset in some ways when it comes to that.
And here's the thing, too. You look at Edmonton. Edmonton technically has space available there on their roster. I mean, Edmonton technically has $21 million in cap space. So could they sign back a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? Sure. They've got guys like Alex Chase on to sign back. They have guys that they could sign back and need to sign back. But here's the thing. Adding in a guy like Nicoletti, I think, helps out their defensive system. It also, I think Nicoletti is a better fit for their style of play than he is for our style of play. He'll be more involved there in the offensive forecheck. He'll be more involved there with carrying the puck up the ice, which is something we really don't ask him to do all that often. And I think that would help out more their team needs. And again, a guy like Puljujarvi is a guy on a low-term contract there, would still be a restricted free agent after next year. And he maybe would add there a little bit more pop there, a little more pop to the party on the offensive side of the puck. I wouldn't be opposed.
Agreed. You got to get creative, though.
Deidre C said, "You may be grumpy, but I still love you."
Love you too, Deirdre.
Absolutely. Moving right along there. Brian P said Komarov and Zajac in the top 9 is bad. 1 goal combined in the playoffs. Yeah.
You had other options. You chose not to use them. That's on the coach. That's all on the coach.
Brian K said, I'm at Hulk Hogan's restaurant in Clearwater Beach. It's great. Wow. I like the Hulk. He's posing there with the Hulk. He's posing with Hulk Hogan.
I think that's probably a wax figure of the Hulkster.
I'm going to say that too, because I don't think the Hulk is in that type of shape anymore, posing in his NWO there shirt, the New World Order.
Yeah.
Scott Levy said, hey, brother, what you going to eat when my restaurant runs wild on you?
I'm just glad he's able to make money in his advancing age.
Yep. Alexander said, any chance we kick the tires on Dougie Hamilton? No, I don't think we need to address anything on defense. I think if we're trading, it's getting rid of defensive players. I don't think we need to trade for any defensive players.
Like I said, a guy like Alex Martinez, he'd be the type of guy I'd go after. But you have to move guys to get him.
An older 33-year-old defenseman who maybe you can get there on the cheap.
And I believe he's a left-handed defenseman. So that works out teaming him with Dobson. Then I would have Aho with Mayfield as your bottom pair. I think that's a nice grouping.
Angelo R. said, guys, I asked the same exact question at the end of the regular season about considering trading Varlamov, and you shooed me away on it.
I didn't.
I don't think Grump did. I can probably tell you maybe I shoot you away on it. But here's the thing. If somebody comes forward with an unbelievable offer for Varlamov, sure, I'd entertain it. I'm going to say the same thing as I said, though, during the season. I'm sure Varlamov and Sorokin have unbelievable chemistry. They have really good relationship together. I think that plays a little bit of a part into it. And it's interesting to see what type of deal they signed Sorokin to. You'll be able to tell really quickly. If they sign Sorokin to a long-term deal, I think Varlamov has to go because he's going to get paid big time if he signs a long-term deal. If they sign Sorokin to some sort of bridge type deal, that tells you all you need to know. They're going to keep Varlamov. If they sign him to a shorter bridge deal, maybe they can pay him a little less, which might bite us in the ass long term. So there's 2 different ways really we can approach it.
Again, you lock up Sorokin long term. He showed you enough that he's the goalie of the future. You move Varlamov. That's what you do. You can't have your backup making $5 million a year. Sorokin is the present and the future of this team. Bye-bye, Varlamov. You're 33 years old.
Angelo R. said, I agree. They need to shed salary, prioritize securing your young talent, and getting 2 real wingers to play with Barzal. Grumpy, I'm pretty sure I think you might have Facebook, Grumpy. Are you posing under the guise of Angelo R? This is something you say all the time.
We just have some people who are smart out there. That's all. Honestly, it's really easy to see what we need to do. It's just doing it. It's getting away from the old paradigm of riding the old guys. Move forward.
And then Rich Arnold said, with what money are we going to pay Palmieri with? I think we're going to have to get rid of players. But I wouldn't be shocked, again, if we try to keep him. I think we're going to try to keep him, though.
Well, you have to offload salary before you can sign an unrestricted free agent. You have to sign your restricted guys first before you look at any unrestricted guys, because you don't want to lowball them. Because then, like, let's say Pelech, he's 1 year from unrestricted free agency. They could lowball him and give him whatever the minimum is, but what does that prove? It means that next year you have the chance of losing him, or you have to pay him an astronomical sum as an unrestricted free agent. You buy out for lesser money years of your free agent deal by unrestricted free agent deal by paying them more than they can make as a restricted free agent. That's what you do. That's what smart teams do.
God almighty.
You can keep on doing that, but that just means you don't understand the concept.
I do understand the concept, but you just never stop about it, Grumpy. You never stop on that damn point.
That's how you do it.
Every damn time. And again, stop. Anyway, Angelo R. Oh, I'm sorry. He showed that one there. Scott L. said, would you be okay with Schneider backing up Sorokin if Varlamov gets dealt?
No.
No, he's not the backup option for me.
But that's fine, because there's a whole bunch of goalies out there every single year who are unrestricted free agents who could come in here and be solid backup, play 30 games a year.
Brian P. said Detroit needs defensemen. Good call, TJ. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they are looking there for some sort of defenseman. $50 million in cap space. I could see them legitimately looking at a guy like Nicoletti. They've got a lot of draft capital coming up in this year's draft and next year's draft. I think now they're saying we need to start cultivating the young guys we've got on the team now. I think they still need a goalie in the prospect farm there to say our rebuild can start really convincing. And I think they're going to draft a goalie. Can't remember the Swedish goalie at 6th overall this year in their draft. I really think that Detroit could be a good match there for us, trying to deal away Nick Leddy. That being said, moving right along there. And again, I'll say this, Deidre, who could be the backup if Varlamov goes? Who else is out there? Haven't done enough research yet, but I think you can plug and place it. We could really have anybody come in to be a significant or a viable backup there for us.
You could always make a side deal with the Kraken if you wanted. If there's a goalie that you wanted as a backup, you could make a deal where, okay, we'll give you Nick Leddy. And I'm just going to throw a name out there. Nick Leddy, if you want to pick somebody else off our roster, we can give you Nick Leddy. You pick this, we'll give you a 2nd-round pick. And this way we shed cap with Leddy. We get our backup goalie on the cheap. There's a lot of things you can do.
Okay, they're not going to they're going to say, hey, I'm going to give you a 2nd-round pick to pick Nick Leddy. Nick Leddy has value in the NHL. Okay. We disagree greatly on that. Nick Leddy still has value in the NHL. You're not going to give up a guy with value and say, hey, pick him, and I'll give you a pick also to pick a player with value.
But you get a backup goalie and you shed salary. That's my point.
David Ritchie would be a good quality player, low-cost backup. He won't be needed there in Toronto since they already have a strong tandem there between Campbell and Anderson. There's a lot of guys you could pick up on the unrestricted free agency market. There's no need to try to trade for a backup goalie with Seattle by giving up Nick Leddy and a draft pick for it. I don't agree with that, Grumpy.
Okay,
that's fine. Value, you can offload him there. Brian B says, so what makes everyone think Trotz is all of a sudden going to change and play the kids? Has he been asked why Zajac, Leo both played in the Tampa Bay series?
No. See, there's Brian, my brother from another mother. That's exactly what I say. That's going to be the biggest impediment to young guys coming in is Barry Trotz not giving them the opportunity. Oliver Wahlstrom, will he be on the first line, or is he just going to be happy throwing him on the third line again? I mean, that's a question that you'd have to ask him. No one ever questions what Trotz does. That's like sacrosanct to question the great Barry Trotz or the great Lou Lamoriello. No one asks them the hard questions ever.
Angelo R. said, time to trim the fat. Andrew Ladd, goodbye there. Long-term injury. Komarov, Leddy, Bailey, Hickey, Eberle, all out. Use long-term injury expansion draft and make even a little bit of salary, and even take a little bit of salary if you have to, and use 2nd-round picks where you have to. But it's time to make serious moves there to get real wingers to play with Barzal. I would actually consider moving Beauvillier on the left and Wahlstrom there on the right. If I could not find a true stud, then replace those guys on a 2nd and a 3rd line. Here's the thing. I don't want us giving up any 2nd-round picks there, 2 2nd-round picks to offload some players. We have no depth there at our forwards. We need to start drafting forwards. That's the biggest need there for us. I don't think you're going to have to give up players to get rid of Leddy. If you get rid of Bailey, which is not going to happen, you're not going to have to give up anything there for him. I think maybe Eberle is kind of like a wash type deal. I think you maybe have to give up something to get rid of Eberle. I think Leddy still holds value. Ladd, you would have to. Komarov, you would have to. And Hickey's on a 1-year deal, $2.5 million. So if you're going to have to give up something, it's not a lot to get rid of Hickey.
Yeah, Angelo, a lot of the things that he's mentioned here, I've already discussed. I think he's 100% correct.
Moving right along there. Brian B. there said that 4th line has to go. Also, play the young kids on the 4th line, not Oliver Wahlstrom. He belongs on the top line.
Very true, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Moving right along there. Brian J. said, how much do you think Lou Lamoriello will give Casey Zizekas? 3 years, $4.5 million? Go!
To me, if he wants to come back, I'd offer him max, absolute max, $2 million a year. Absolute max.
Yeah.
But once again, you have to shed salary before you can sign any of those guys.
And then Daniel D said, bye-bye, Leddy.
Bye-bye.
Oh, good. Brian J. also said, Kyle just bought the house right by me.
I'm sorry for you because I'm sure it brought down property values.
Oh, freaking ridiculous. You are ridiculous there, grumpy old man. Mr. Binkleberry said this team is doomed if Lou doesn't make significant moves with our prospects and let go some of our old timers.
True. It's like, okay, we're not good enough to throw all of our assets into the ring to make a push for a cup. We're not good enough. We're not talented enough. So the next move, what you're supposed to do, is get rid of the old guys and bring in young guys, because it'll be a dark time if you continue to ride the old guys till they have nothing left in the tank and nothing in the farm system. Then you're back to being what we were, picking in the top 5 every year.
Joe S. there said, Dougie Hamilton. Please.
I'm going to say no to him. He's managed to play his way off for a number of teams now. He's seems like he's a real prickly fella, and I don't think we need that in the locker room.
I think he's a locker room cancer. Just like people say, hey, locker room cancer is, PK Subban was a locker room cancer. I also think Dougie Hamilton's a locker room cancer. But moving right along there, Rich A. also said we would have gotten smoked by the Panthers of Carolina.
Yeah, they were both. Well, I don't know if we would have gotten smoked, but both of those teams would have given us a real hard time because they play a style that gives us problems. Teams that are real fast in the forward group and aggressive on the forecheck. We don't match up with Carolina at all. We do not match up with Carolina.
Dominico Wells there said, if we knew Boychuk was retiring, we would have kept Taves and been fine. Here's the thing, though.
Don't push my freaking buttons on this. That's a hot button. That means that if you didn't know that Johnny was leaving, that's on the GM.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm just going to hit it real quick. Dominico, here's the thing. If you're trying to tell me our general manager, Lou Lamoriello, didn't know or had no idea that Johnny Boychuk just woke up one morning and said, hey, I'm retiring. You had no talks with him beforehand. You had no feel of the room saying, hey, you might retire. Maybe I can't play anymore. I'm having trouble seeing out of my eye. This isn't for me anymore. If you had no idea about that, that's a screw up, a colossal screw up there by Lamoriello. You should have had some feeling or sense of the room, should have talked there to him. They have constant communication with the agent, constant communication with the player over the offseason. It's not like, hey, you're playing high school football and all summer long I talk to my coach once or I see him at workouts. They talk to these guys. They talk to these agents on a weekly basis. So he had to have some feeling that Boychuk was going to retire and they could place him on long-term injury. He had to have known that. I really believe he had to have known that.
And the worst thing was because Trotz wanted to keep Letty. Trotz loves Letty. And it's like, okay, so you're going to keep a guy when you're cash strapped who makes more money, is older, is not as good. And now Colorado gets the benefit and signed a kid who was a restricted free agent for 4 years at $4.1 million per. So they bought out, once again, unrestricted free agency years. They got the kid on the cheap for 4 years because they bought out a year of restricted free agency. Great move by Colorado. Really dumb move by Lou. Really dumb.
Dominico.
That gives you GM of the year making moves like that. Go figure.
Dominico said Otto Koivula isn't the answer. Here's the thing Otto Koivula does bring. Look at his production he had in the Finnish Elite League. Otto Koivula had production there in the Finnish Elite League, and he had production there in Bridgeport. Look at the Bridgeport lineup. Look at his wingers there he had in Bridgeport. Yikes, they were bad. He's a guy where I want to see what he could do with an actual chance. Would he have 9 games in the NHL? You're really trying to tell me we couldn't have given him a little bit longer of a sample size than that?
He's not old enough. It's just they don't want to play the young guys. I know it's a real simplistic view, but that's what it is. He's shown it over his 3 years there. Refuses to play the young players unless absolutely forced to.
Well, here's the thing. Otto Koivula now is 22. He's going to be 23 years old by the start of next season. That's a guy who needs to get a chance. He does. Moving right along there, Daniel D also said, yep, Bellows is going to be another one that got away. But Dominico said there, Bellows was messing around with performance-enhancing drugs. That's why he hasn't gotten a shot. I'm going to let you know something, Dominico. We've talked about it last year when he got popped for performance-enhancing drugs. Everybody uses performance-enhancing drugs. The majority of people do. Maybe not everybody in hockey. Professional athletes use anything they think is borderline that will allow them to get the competitive edge. And all it takes is your trainer to say, hey, Johnny Two Shoes, this guy, that guy, and this guy, who also trains with us, who are professional athletes who play in the NHL, also use this substance. Takes their key for Bellows is to want to get tested, gets popped, has no idea what he's doing there, is not 100% legal. Maybe he thought there could be something shady about it, but everybody does something to get the competitive edge in professional sports.
And I could care less that they do. I could care less.
Yeah. Godzilla also said in 1980, the answer was Butch Goring. Who now? They need a 28-year-old who's won the cup, who can put 50 points up, plays in the dirty areas. Will not come cheap.
True. But here's the thing. That wouldn't work on this team because we're not a young team in need of a veteran's guidance. We're an old team that needs to offload salary. We're loaded with Butch Goring types. We don't have any Mike Bossy, Brian Trottier, Dennis Potvin, Clark Gillies, Bobby Baughan. We don't have any of those types. John Tonelli's. We don't have any of those types.
Moving right along there, William C. there said Tampa had to endure 2 conference finals losses, a sweep by the Blue Jackets, and they finally broke through and won a cup. And now look at them. Sometimes you need some heartbreak to become champions.
Firmly believe in that theory. What put them over the top was the trade for Coleman and was it Maroon did they trade for?
Yes,
they made 2 deadline trades, and it wasn't for talented guys, and they gave up first-round picks. And for those type of players, like, gosh, they're not worth first-round picks. But they were the 2 players that put them over the top. A little bit of sandpaper in the lineup. They had this is like I keep on saying it over and over again, a lot like the Islanders in the 80s. They had all the talent in the world, but they were missing that one piece. And Tampa was missing, and I said it for 2 years, they need a little bit of sandpaper. They finally got them. The rest is history.
Moving right along there, Grumpy. Alexander said, I think they brought Johnson in just in case an injury there to Martin.
Well, I don't know.
And then Brian B also said, if they leave Bellows unprotected and that's who they pick, Lou deserves to be shown the door. He's had a chance. It's a chance to shed money.
That's right. That's what the expansion draft needs to be. You're right up against the cap ceiling. You need to move salary. Number 1. That's Project 1. When Lou does his offseason worksheet, 1, shed salary. 2, shed more salary. 3, more salary needs to go. That's all what the season's about this offseason.
William C. said the only problem is that I don't see Lou doing anything major this offseason. Knowing him, he'll resign back the old geezers. Just imagine if we had Panarin. We'd be in the Cup Finals right now.
I'm not going to rip him on Panarin. Panarin didn't want to be here. And they made a run at him. That's the guy. He would be perfect with Barzal. Just perfect.
Paulo C. there said, get rid of Eberle, Bailey, Komarov, Zajac, Letty, and Green. I don't think they're getting rid of Bailey, but I could see them getting rid of Eberle, Komarov, Zajac, Letty, and then Green.
So there's 5 guys, right? So that's not a tweak. That's turnover. That's a lot of turnover. Okay. And I think more than that needs to be done.
Andy Green, unrestricted free agent, probably will retire. Travis Zajac, unrestricted free agent, another 37, 36-year-old player, probably will retire. So those are 2 players you really don't have to worry about. The actual movement parts require Nick Letty, Komarov, and then maybe Eberle. I think Eberle and Letty are going to go in some capacity, and Leo's only got 1 year left on his deal, makes it more manageable there to trade. But those are 3 pieces. I think if you want to move, that would be, hey, I wouldn't complain about that at all. Moving right along there. We need to talk about how we can score, says Brian J. Enough of the grinders. We need talent.
I've been preaching. You're preaching to the choir. I've been saying that for 3 years now.
Josh H. says Stanley Cup or bust. Hey, that's the future, right? No longer can we look at it as, hey, getting to the semifinals makes me happy. When we go to the semis, that's where we've been before. Now, after being there 2 years in a row, now it's time to start saying, how can we get over that hump and how can we make it there to the Stanley Cup finals? How can we win a Stanley Cup?
Well, we can't do it with this roster. It's an older roster that needs to be dismantled. It's just what it is. That's why I wanted to do it 2 years ago. Because I knew this was coming. I knew we were not talented enough to win a cup. I knew it. And I said the same thing 2 years ago. I said the same thing last year. We say the same thing again. This team isn't talented enough to win a cup. Break it down and start over. That's all.
1 goal away from making to the Cup finals. If we play Montreal, we win them. So again,
okay, they didn't. They didn't. They didn't even get to the Cup finals. So it didn't happen. Just like I said, it was not going to happen. It didn't happen.
Okay, you also say we're going to get eliminated in the first round, second round, and third round of the playoffs, Grumpy. You make a lot of statements that just drive me insane.
Okay.
One of them that I will fight you on.
Okay. Tristan Jarry is the only reason we won that first series.
Hold on. Quick question: Did we beat the Pittsburgh Penguins? Did we advance past the first round of the playoffs? Because that's all that matters. Did we do that?
Okay, but here's the thing: we did not. We did not contend for the Stanley Cup. Did not do it. Didn't get there. You can't if you're not in the finals. You can't contend for the cup. We did not contend for the cup.
We made it to the semis in back-to-back years. We've been contending for the cups the last 2 years. If you have it, you're wrong.
No, not good enough. We're not good enough. Bottom line, we're not good enough to win. We're not good enough to win. Bottom line.
Yeah, freaking ridiculous. Moving right along there. We're too late to be arguing like that. John V also said Bailey, who doesn't produce at all, has had more production in our franchise playoff history outside the dynasty years. Yeah, it's because he's been with the team forever and ever and ever. He's played there a long time. He's played throughout all the big playoff time periods we've been here through. He does produce in the playoffs. He's a guy I don't want to get rid of. I'd love to have him there as a really good third liner. But he's not a guy I want to see there consistently rolled out there on the top two lines.
Yeah, how many games has he played? How many playoff games has he played in his career? I'm going to bet it's an awful lot.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'll have to pull that there for you.
He's on every single power play. Just no.
Michael P. said offensively, the team should be built around Matty B and Beauvillier. Just get them the pieces.
And Oliver Wahlstrom's another one.
Yeah,
those are the three guys under 30. Those are the three guys under 30 years old that should be playing a regular. That's what the future is. Everybody else is over 30. We don't need them. I realize we can't get rid of all of them right away, but they're not part of the future.
Josh Bailey, answer your question, played 71 playoff games for us. So nearing the century mark there. Brett W. said, seeing that Nelson and Barzal post-game was heartbreaking. I so hope that Lou can bring in the pieces his team needs to get over the hump next year.
It would have been easier to do it last offseason, but he wouldn't put Andrew Ladd on long-term injury. He traded Taves. I mean, there were other moves that could have been done where we could have got a younger piece going forward, which I think would have helped us long term.
Yeah, Grumpy. Really quick there, Scott Levy also said, Grumpy, it was Goudreau. Not Maroon.
Okay. And they signed Maroon as a free agent. Yep.
Brett W. said, I know it's possible that Seattle may take one of the bad contracts, but realistically, for the other ones that need to move, to be able to at least re-sign our own players at any trade value, specifically Everly, Leddy, Hickey, Bailey, Ladd. I think Ladd has zero value. Ladd has zero value. You're going to have to pay to get rid of Andrew Ladd. Here's the thing. I don't think you have to pay to get rid of Nick Leddy. I think you're going to get paid for Nick Leddy. Jordan Eberle, if you get paid, it's going to be very minimal. I think that's going to be like a wash deal. We're not going to get much back for him. Hopefully we don't have to give up much to get rid of him. Hickey, you might have to give up something to get rid of him. He makes $2.5 million. He's a guy who's a seventh defenseman there. I don't think we're getting rid of Bailey.
I would say for what they could bring in a trade, it's probably, maybe Bailey first. Maybe you get a second for him. Maybe a second for Leddy and a third for Everly. You're not getting a first round pick for any of those guys. And Hickey, he's another guy that you just have to give away, maybe a 7th round pick.
Moving right along there, Paulo C. said, Grumpy, if we draft Braden Point instead of Sorokin, we win 2 straight cups, not Tampa. I'll tell you one thing, though. Hey, we drafted a guy in Sorokin who's going to be a monster of a goalie, who's going to be in contention to be a Vezina Trophy winner at one point in time throughout his career in this system. I really believe that.
Yeah, a lot of people missed on Braden Point, and he really improved from when he was drafted to when he came in and played in the league. Okay, his skating improved tremendously, but he has that it factor. The puck always seems to find him. He's really, really good, but his skating has improved dramatically since he's made it to the pros. A lot of people missed on him.
Brendan G. there said Barzal, Beauvillier, Pelech, Pulak, Mayfield, Johnson, Wahlstrom, and Sorokin. The rest can go. Trade for picks. Get 10 or more $2 million professional hockey league players and teach them this system. It isn't rocket science. Leave money on the table for good contracts and re-signings.
Now, see, that's a full overhaul. And I'm not opposed to that. I just think it's too tough to do with the flat cap. That's what I think. That's the biggest thing that's going to hurt us, the flat cap.
And I don't think it's going to happen overnight. Grumpy, looking at the clock. I know, Grumpy. We're going through rapid fire. 2 hours in, Grumpy. There goes. Brian P. said Tampa, 5 conference titles in 7 years, and they're in the third cup finals. And they're in their third cup final in 7. Cooper's good, TJ. Here's the thing. You got to win. You got to close the deal. I think he will. I was just saying, if they don't win cups, they don't win more than 1 Stanley Cup with the way that team's constructed, he is overrated as a coach. Think about it. If they lose to Montreal, I think that's an epic failure by John Cooper and the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Okay. They're not going to lose to Montreal.
I don't think they are, but hey, I also didn't think Montreal was going to be Vegas. I didn't think they were going to be Toronto, and I didn't think Montreal was also going to beat Winnipeg.
You know, that's like the Islanders back in the day when they played Minnesota, or Vancouver, where, well, gosh, yeah, if we would have lost then, you know, Bill Torrey wasn't a great GM and Al Arbor wasn't a great coach. There was no way we were losing to either one of those teams. And, you know, we wound up sweeping Vancouver. I mean, they were just dominant. That's what Tampa is right now. You can say that, and you can cling on to this narrative that you're putting about Cooper. But here's the thing: look at those numbers. They're better than Barry Trotz has done throughout his whole career. His whole career, Barry Trotz doesn't have anything close to what those results look like. Not even close.
Adrian BL said, "Hey there, I will tell you this. Anytime Adrian chimes in now, he said, Adrian, we can do it." I think that's how we need to make the little adjustment there, Grumpy, because we didn't do it. So, Grumpy, go ahead and give it.
Yo, Adrian, we hope to be able to do it next year.
Brett W said, "Go back-to-back semifinals is certainly contending, Grump. 99% of the league would like to be close to that." I agree, Grumpy. I think that's where you're a little too harsh. Back-to-back semifinals means we are contenders. No matter what you try to tout out there, it proves that last year wasn't a fluke.
Okay.
The games against Tampa also proves that last year wasn't a fluke.
I just say to be and I do have high standards without a doubt. It's like you have to be able to get to the cup finals to be a contender. We didn't do it. 2 years in a row, we didn't do it.
Jesus freaking Christ. Yeah, 2 years in a row. We should have won cups. You know, in the last 2 years, we could have had 5 cups, but we didn't do it. Man, we should have had 5 cups the last 2 years.
We haven't won any. 0. I mean, 0. I mean, you can try to sell it any way you want. 0. The number's 0.
Nick D said, TJ Grump, what's up? Can you see Bailey and Bellows in a package deal? Which team would take them?
I don't want to move Bellows. I just think he has a future with this team. I'd hate to see them move Bellows. I mean, if you had to move him and Bailey, I mean, you'd have to get a young player back, I would think. That's what we need is young players going forward who can be part of the future of the team.
Nick D also said Sportsnet's Canada were bugging the Islanders because we picked Sorokin instead of Point. They just don't understand how great Sorokin will be. I did not know Sportsnet was given that an issue.
Okay. You know, you could say that about just about anybody who drafted before Tampa picked Point in that 3rd round. That's all I'm going to say.
And you could look at every single time and say, hey, look how many of these teams passed over Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk. Those are Hall of Fame caliber players. If they would have picked them, they would have been a Hall of Fame caliber team. Stop. That stuff is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. The only time you can really make an argument is if you have a really high pick and you were penciled in like Boston was. You could have picked the Matt Barzal, and Boston didn't pick the Matt Barzal with 3 picks, right? See, that's one where you can make those arguments because they had 3 picks in a row. Barzal was penciled to go around there, and they passed over him. I can understand that. When you're in the 2nd and the 3rd round, it's a crapshoot. Come on.
And I'm going to tell you what, the Boston media hits them with that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then Brian P.L. said, great show, fellas. I like that you're on every Saturday. Again, every single Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday is the other podcast. Yes, we'll be going Thursday for the TJ and the Grumpy Old Man podcast. We're going to be bumping it up to 2 times a week, but our next TJ and the Grumpy Old Man podcast will be this next Thursday. And again, that is a little later in the evenings. That is like a 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time podcast.
Why so late? I mean, I got to get to bed. I mean, you keep on having – I realize you live on the West Coast, wherever the heck it is you live. I live in the East Coast. I don't know why now it's 10 o'clock. Why does it have to be so late?
Daniel D said, I don't think Grumpy knows what the word contender means. No, he doesn't. Grumpy and I have complete different understandings, completely different thought processes there on the word contender.
I guess maybe are they capable of winning a Stanley Cup? No, they're not. That's my point. They're not. This group of players is not capable of winning a Stanley Cup.
Jesus Christ.
They just proved it 2 years in a row, not capable. Changes need to be made. You get beat 8-0, you should make changes.
I can't take you seriously. John V said, any chance that Nikolai Ehlers from Winnipeg becomes available? That's the type of guy we need to bring in.
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to see them bring him in. I'd love to see him have a shot to come here. He makes what, $5 million, $5.5 million a year, but he's a young guy. That's the type of talent we need to bring in.
Red W said, it's so dumb. Sorokin's a future star. Look how many people passed on Bossy. Come on. There's always someone. That's what I was about to say. It's like saying every single team. It's like every single team when Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl saying, hey, if you look back on that, the Kansas City Chiefs could have actually drafted Tom Brady. Hey, every team that Tom Brady, hey, who else I can't even remember who else Tampa Bay or who else Tom Brady has beaten in the finals. There have been so many of them. Hey, the Atlanta Falcons could have drafted Tom Brady back in the day, but they didn't. And this is where every single team could have drafted Braden Point. Come on.
The Rams, the Panthers, the Eagles. I mean,
the list goes on and on. It's a stupid comment. It's dumb. It's lazy. It's lazy. It's lazy sportscasting. What can I say? Angelo R. there also said, was Wallstrom fully healthy? Yes, he was fully healthy in the playoffs, and we sat him. Yep. And then Nick D said, Never Say Die podcast is only on Saturday nights. So going forward, guys, and we'll make
in the off season.
In the off season, the Islanders Never Say Die podcast will be on every single Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be going live. But
I'd make a suggestion for the Thursday night podcast, perhaps 9:00 at night. People have to go to work the next day.
We'll work with it. We'll work on it, Grumpy. But Grump, at the end of today's podcast, this will be released here on Monday. This is our Monday podcast. The offseason officially begins. Grump, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap things up here today?
Love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Grumpy. Jan M. also one more comment said Nugent Hopkins would be a good fit as well. We've talked about that. He would be an okay fit there at the left wing position there. Not sure what he would command, but that you only bring in a guy like Nugent Hopkins if you let a guy like Kyle Palmieri go too. I'm just not sure what's going to happen. Nugent Hopkins is going to get paid though too. That is a whole different discussion for more of an off-season podcast as well. But thank you everybody for tuning in and listening there to the live stream. We appreciate all the support. Again, we're not going away. Just because the Islanders are out of the Stanley Cup playoffs, we're not going away. We still podcast all offseason long because, hey, we live, breathe, eat Islanders hockey. We're ready. We're on the cusp. Grumpy doesn't think so. I think so. Hey, the Islanders can do it. We got a few moves we've got to make, but thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you again, Grumpy.